Good evening, section crew, and welcome back to the Second Section podcast. I'm your host, Andy Dorsch, and tonight I am joined by my co-host, Mike Ostertag. Mike, are you still riding the struggle bus tonight?
I'm gonna all night long. You know that.
You're gonna all night long. How you doing otherwise?
Good.
Good?
I've been doing some productive stuff lately, so it's that's good. Yeah, it's been good. So
that is. I mean, so Mike's being modest. He's been just in a fever of modeling over on his side of things on the Farland terminal in S scale. So he's going to have some cool stuff to show tonight on what's on your workbench. And hey, we gotta tip it over to our guest tonight, Jim Wiggin.
Yeah.
How about that?
Isn't that something?
Hey guys.
Hey Jim, welcome to the second section. For those who don't know Jim, Jim is I think he works for Model Railroad Company, don't you, Jim?
I think so. I think we import model railroad cars or something.
You import model railroad cars, okay?
Yeah. And if Tony Cook had anything to say about it, then it'll be Lincoln's.
Yeah, so like on the Seinfeld, right? You're like Art Van Delay, the importer exporter.
That's right.
That's right. That's what you do. Okay.
Yeah. No. I marketing brand manager for Athearn Trains.
Okay.
So some of your audience may have seen me on such things such as Train Tuesday or the Athern Extra Live, or then our monthly announcements, or whatever else we cook up in the studio or in a meeting.
Yeah. So your Train Tuesday and the other shows, those can be found on your YouTube channel, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. You can go over to the Athern YouTube channel and check it out. They're all archived there. And like I said, every Tuesday at 7:00 p.m. Central Standard Time, we upload a new Train Tuesday. So
okay. And you just did one this last week, correct?
That is correct. Yeah, we talked a little bit about the Athern HO 40-foot ballast cars. Featured items.
Those ones with the Frisco paint scheme there. Those so those look pretty sharp. That was those are some cool announcements that you brought out. This was this week, this Tuesday. So we'll have to be sure to check them out. I know we're borderline hashtag not sponsored here, but let's see here. Yeah, so we're we'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, you can find Jim on Athern. And he's also, let's see here. You're also quite an avid modeler too, correct?
I am. Yeah, I've been modeling, model railroading now for well over 35 years. I did HO as a child, as a young child. In fact, I still have my very first HO scale locomotive. And if for the older guys in the audience, this is an AHM GP18.
An AHM GP18. That is sweet.
Yeah.
Does it still work?
It does still work. And
how about that?
When I've got the matching caboose for it as well. So I've got the matching set from my childhood.
Oh man.
That's
and it survived childhood for the most part. Admittedly, I did have to restore it. I had to, about 20 years ago, I went to Amherst and found parts locomotives to kind of piece it back together again. But for the most part, it survived childhood. And then in my adult life, around the time I went to college, probably early 90s, I switched over to N scale, and I've been an avid N scaler for, since 1993. And I've modeled both the Boston and Maine and N scale in the 1970s. And then I've also modeled the CB&Q in the late 60s. So,
oh my gosh!
And now working for Athearn, I'm building another HO layout. So can't get away from HO.
So you've flipped and you've flopped. So you've gone from HO down to N and then back up to HO a little bit. Are you still gonna keep doing both scales? Or are you gonna lean more towards one versus the other?
I'm still doing both scales. I have a pretty good affinity for N scale. And of course, when I had good eyesight, I had a fleet of Boston to Maine locomotives I did that were super detailed. So they had all their grab irons, lift rings, cut levers, all the details that we take for granted on, say, like a Genesis locomotive. And since I can't go back in time, despite what Cher says, hashtag not sponsored by the music industry.
Ooh.
I can't do that again. So now I can build a layout. I've got all the, I did a lot of freight cars in N scale, custom painted those, and of course with the locomotives as well. So
sure.
I'll still do that. The N scale layout that I had for many years, it was a modular layout called the Galesburg City Job.
Okay.
That was a layout. It was a prototype specific layout based on Galesburg, Illinois in 1967. And it followed the operations of both the Santa Fe and the CB&Q, switching out large industries like Butler Building.
Okay.
And that one, unfortunately, that ship has sailed. I've got the layout behind me, or the remnants of it, because I use it sometimes for marketing purposes, but that will slowly go away and the new N scale layout will take its place.
Yeah, so that's something that we may unpack a little bit later is how has, working for a model train company actually changed, your modeling, I guess, habits, so to speak, because you probably look at things a little differently in your line of work than just the general modeler. So I think that'll be really cool to kind of maybe get your take on what you look for in a scene or on a model. And that we could all take away to make ourselves better modelers ourselves. So, again, so Jim's here tonight. We're gonna take a quick peek at the chat. There are 46 people here tonight. So let's welcome everyone in the chat. And I think Jim actually had a really nice idea here. So showing off his first the AHM locomotive from his childhood. So if you're in the chat tonight, why don't you go ahead and let us know? Because I think it'd be kind of a fun thing to kind of get to know one another here. Is what was your first locomotive? Do you still have it, and does it still run? So throw that into the chat tonight as I run down the roster of folks that we have here tonight. So Mike Shanky, he was here early. He says football in the second section tonight. Life is good. Darn right it is. MECM 211. Good evening. Tom Holly's here this evening. Otter Creek and Rio Grande Rio Grande, Camas Chris, Nick LaRusso, Tony Dixon, Ryan Folk, Tim Moran, Paul from the C&W and Mondovi line and HO scale, who's got some really cool stuff for coming up on What's on Your Workbench, is here tonight. Thomas Imlay, Justin's here tonight. Welcome, Justin. Dan Dyer from the BN River Division is here. Randall Ellison and Tom Klamoski. Chris Hiley, SoCo Olds 455 is here. Randall Ellison, Santa Ana Industrial Lead Model Railroad. Hello. Robert Thomas, DG Model Works is here. Welcome, Derek. Isaac Fabris is here, who I believe was recently on another podcast called Around the Layout. So welcome, Isaac. And that was a pretty good episode that you and Ray did. So kudos there. And let's see, Split Rock's here tonight. We're going to flash Split Rock up here. Hashtag share music. Hey, man. If you have any other puns or pop culture references, I think we got to make them here. Share music. So
make them t-shirt worthy though, if you're going to make one.
There you go.
Yeah, right. And Randall Ellison. Yep, we're right into the copyright strikes. So yep, there we go. Colin King's here tonight. Iron River 11. Let's see, and Chicago, Denver, and Northern. And I think, let's see here, we're going to get into everyone's units here. So Dan Dyer says his first was an HO scale SCL U30B Spirit of 76 by Bachmann. Let's see here, Randall Ellison, Bachmann UP GP40. It was destroyed by less than a minute of by less than mature train handling. See here, Justin says My first loco was an Athearn Sioux GP35. I repainted it. I still have it, but it no longer looks good or runs. Let's see, Chicago and Denver Northern Lionel UPFA. That was a hand-me-down from my dad. That's cool. Ryan Folk, Lifelike HO GP38-2 Burlington Northern. The BN fans will like that one here. Mike Shanky, Santa Fe. My first locomotive was a Lifelike Santa Fe. Doesn't write and lost when I moved. Let's see, Thomas Chris, Athearn Hustler. Motor runs, but can't find the rubber bands for the axles. Yeah, so Jim, rubber bands. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Rubber bands for those axles. Yeah. Rubber bands for those axles. Get heavy duty strength, orthodontic bands for braces.
Yep.
If you get the heavier duty strength, they'll actually stretch and hold and go, because you only need, what is that? What was that, Jim? Was it an inch and a half?
It wasn't much.
It wasn't much that you needed to get them to stretch those, but you need the heavier duty ones. And I think you can get those rubber bands for dirt cheap. If somebody that's got a kid that's got braces, you can get them for free from your dentist.
Yep, I've heard that as well.
Yeah, or you could probably catch them on Amazon. They sell everything. They're hashtag not sponsored.
Yep.
We are not sponsored by Amazon yet. Okay, so cold. Had a Bachmann Chessie F7. It might be in the parts bin somewhere. Beerline Modeler just says, "Hey, good evening." Let's see here. Let's see.
Keep going. I'll be right back.
Okay, do a good job, Mike. I have a Genesis Hustler, a separate grab iron, see-through step soundtracks with a current keeper and a sugar cube speaker. My first locomotive was an AHM Pensy RS3 long gone. Sorry, Colin, that sucks. Joe DeLusso Tyco Durango GP38. Tom Holly and Athern Blue Box Southern Railway SW7. All right.
Nice.
And then Derek here from DG Model Works. Bachmann Santa Fe F7 train set was my first. I'm going to guess some sort of war bonnet paint scheme there.
Probably.
Let's see. Nick LaRusso Tyco 6C 636. See, Isaac says he didn't have any childhood locos, but I do have a couple of cars that amazingly still work from my modeling era prototype. Let's see, oh man, Tony Dixon here. Athern Blue Box SD 40-2 non-dynamic IC Death Star, circa 1995-ish. Long gone when he liquidated his HO stuff. See, Paul's got a Mantua HO scale 460. Whoa, from the 1970s and still runs. Beerline Modeler GP30. Bachmann in the red and silver war bonnet with the matching caboose. And let's see here.
I was trying to find mine. I had an 040 steam engine with with a little tiny tender on it.
Yeah.
And I actually repainted the tender and put a Green Band Western decal on it.
Oh, very cool. I had a model car one like that.
Yeah, I think it was a Santa Fe. It still technically runs, but it stinks when it runs. I mean, it smells bad.
Oh, no.
It smells really bad. So something's not quite right with it. But I wouldn't mind kind of one of these days kind of looking at it and maybe going through and fixing it all up. And
there you go.
So Milepost 82 Model Works, they got an Alco Century 630 from, it looks like a train set, Tyco Golden Eagle. Let's see here. Bob Gallegos was an Atlas N FMC liner. Now that's a unique locomotive.
Yeah.
And let's see here. Thomas Imlay came from Sears HO, and he still has his first N scale car, a B&M gondola. The HO set is long gone though. So I know I had my first locomotive was it was a Tyco train. I had a Tyco, it was like a U28 or U23B train set. It came on the steel track and all that good stuff. But my first, so I had that. I destroyed it by the age of 10, but I was still into trains. And my first locomotive was an Athearn Blue Box GP50 in Chicago and Northwestern. I'll never forget the day my dad took me to Focus Hobbies in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. And it was just a dirty hobby shop with stuff everywhere. And we went and picked it out. And I remember that. I'll never forget that day, getting my first real, model train. So put all the metal handrails together, and, wondered what all those little bits that were like break off bits from the handrails were. I'm like, oh, what are these? Throw them out. Put on the brake, the braking on the side frames and stuff. That was fun. So that was fun to see also what's going on with the section crew as well. So welcome section crew tonight. Good discussion so far. And just set the ground rules tonight. If you guys see any bots out there, still haven't gotten anyone to be our moderators yet for the podcast. So see a bot out there, let me know. I'll try and boot it as soon as possible. But questions tonight, let's keep it modeling related. Let's keep it, civil. If I don't want to have to boot you out of here tonight, because it's good fun with friends. So it was a pretty good intro, Jim. It's really kind of interesting, with the dual scales and having that on the show tonight. So if anyone has any questions about Athearn, we'll get into that probably for #NotSponsored, but we're going to really dive into the dual scales and that as well. We're going to have what's on your workbench at the end, and then we'll also do a short line of the show this evening. So that's coming back with a vengeance, and Mike is feverishly working behind the scenes. So to get that going just in the nick of time. So we're gonna switch it over now to #NotSponsored. So I'll bring the banner up. The Greasy Meat Hands band is we haven't figured out the intro set here yet on #NotSponsored, but we're working on that. So
we don't pay them enough.
We don't pay those guys enough. So Mike, you said you had a good one tonight.
I do.
You do.
Is
it #unprepared? Semi unprepared. Okay.
Okay. So let me see here. This is our high tech production crack staff.
Yeah, crack staff.
All right. I'm gonna go here and do that, and then I'm gonna go here and hit that and hit that right there. Mine, Ron Kleiss.
Ron
sent
Kleiss.
Me of Mind Mount Models sent me a message and said, "Hey, look what we're making in S scale." And this is just basically an old junked out car. But he says there's more S scale details on the horizon. Stay tuned for that. And I was just looking at this here not too long ago. The amount of detail that they have in this is incredible. Everything right down to the tire tread, the bolts, the fact that like the drive shaft is bent up. I mean, all those small little junked out frame details. I mean, it doesn't mention what type of car it is, but Mind Mount Model. I mean, first of all, they do a lot of great HO stuff. They do a lot of great things in the first place, but this is big time news for the S scale community, because this is just more details that we haven't had in the past that we can draw from now. So yeah, this was fantastic. I was really excited. I was kind of chomping at the bit to get this one out there. That's awesome. So
that's really cool, Mike. Hey, did they say when they're bringing them out? I didn't catch that.
No, he said this is the first one, I guess, that they're coming out, and it's going to be available soon, I guess. And he didn't say much more about that. The conversation just kind of.
And that was that.
That was it. So as I get more information about it, I'll pass it along to our fine viewers and to the section crew, and just kind of take it from there. But I thought this was kind of sharp. I don't even know if there's something like this in HO.
No, I wouldn't.
I mean,
usually that's what most of my modeling projects end up looking like, when I try to build them out of the box. But right. to make one like that, in a 3D print, that is, because that's really good, because that's usually me trying to build the model correctly, and that's how it ends up looking. But this is a pretty clever deal here from Ron Kleiss, and essentially creating an old junk car chassis with parts, strewn across, and it's a 3D print that you clean up and has a nice detail in the layout.
Well, yeah, and then just imagine the where you could put this. You could put this thing anywhere. You could put it out in the middle of a farm field.
Yep.
You could put it behind a garage in someone's backyard.
Or front yard.
Or front
if you're
yard
from Wisconsin. that's a nice.
I was going to say it. Somehow he managed to model my first car. It's vaguely familiar.
I would like to know what era or what kind of car this is supposed to be. I'd almost imagine it would be something from the 30s. I would think.
I think Tony Dixon came in and said it looks like a Model T Ford chassis.
Maybe very well maybe. So that makes it even more cool. So yeah, very, very cool. I thought this was very neat, and thank you, Ron, for doing this and for coming out with this, and can't wait to see what else you guys come out with. This is going to be my order of, this is one of those beginnings of the shut up and take my money type of thing.
I love that. I love that meme. Shut up and take my money.
Shut up and take my money.
Lately it's been horrible for me too, because pretty much every manufacturer out there has been, oh my God, I got to have 10 of these here. Just take it. Take my money. Just take it. So, but yeah, that's, I don't know, maybe here. So a couple people say, yeah, we can hold her together with a little duct tape and baling twine. Yep. So Old says, it'll buff out. I think you're right there. So well done. So Jim, do you have anything that you wanted to share on hashtag not sponsored tonight?
Well, sure. I was at, I don't have it in front of me, unfortunately, but I'm continually, I've been a fan now for a couple of years of the Iowa scaled models.
Yeah.
And they were set up, of course, at the St. Louis RPM.
Okay.
And I picked up a proto throttle a year or so ago. Now, Mike, you might remember the name of the gentleman. He was kind of in conjunction with those folks at Iowa scaled models, but he has made a kit to upgrade your proto throttle to make it more EMD-ish, if that's a word.
Yeah, Scotty Thornton.
Scotty, yeah, and I had to pick it up. So it's kind of a workbench thing too, but I picked up one of those, and he also had some really cool HO scale derailleurs, functional derailleurs. So if you're into operations and if you've got a small area and you've got a switching layout, it makes it that much better if you've got one more thing for your brakeman to do. Not simply just push a car into a siding and let it go. But yeah, there's the
derails, right?
Derailleurs, and they're beautifully done. They're going to look phenomenal when I get them installed. Can't wait.
And it looks like he's got a picture of it here on Tom Klomoski's Georgia Northeastern. And just look, you can see the close up there of what Thomas has on his layout, and just how the derail looks there, and how it sits in there, just nice and beautiful. So, and then we'll get a little comment here from Ron Kleiss. Says, thanks Mike, for forcing my hand. So
you're welcome.
And then Tom Klomoski here, he says he has Scott's derails and proto throttle upgrade kit, and both are fantastic. And I know Scott and company from Iowa Scaled Engineering have come on the show a couple of times, and they do fantastic work. And I know that once my modeling budget clears up a little bit here, that proto throttle's coming home. So I'm excited for that. So very good. Anything else? Did you want to talk about anything on that you shared on Train Tuesday? So you talked about the ballast hoppers a little bit on the intro.
Yeah, actually, I can show you something that I haven't shown anybody else yet.
Whoa! Second section.
A world exclusive.
It's a world exclusive.
World exclusive.
And it is an Athearn model. It's our second run of -9. So let me grab it here.
Oh my gosh! All right, everybody, get ready.
You know, living close to Galesburg, I had to show the BNSF one, but here you go.
Wow!
Second run. I'll get that in the camera so you guys can see.
That is nice.
There's our -9s, and wow,
that is so sharp.
I gotta admit, guys, personally, I'm a modeler of the 60s and 70s. This would be extremely modern to me. Some of the younger guys out there, this is probably old school. But these things are phenomenal. I mean, just the amount of work that went into these. And this one's got the Tsunami too. So it has that, I did a lot of rail fanning in Galesburg in the 90s and 2000s. Saw a lot of -9s. And every time I put one of those on the track for something for Athern, it takes me back to those days of rail fanning, the Transcon out of Galesburg, Illinois. I mean, the compressor whoop, the G's are so famous for. I mean, it's really cool. So these right here, these are samples that we took pictures of for our website.
Okay.
And these will be in stock. If you pre-ordered these last year, these will be in hobby shops. We're hoping about late October. So you got a little bit of time to give the wallet a rest if you bought the GP40s that just came out a couple of weeks ago. And -9s will be here by the end of October, early November. So,
man. Those are that. Well, first of all, I love the war bonnet, the carryover. I mean, the war bonnet carryover is just amazing. And it's a really sharp looking locomotive. It looks like it's got, this is your Genesis line, right?
Right.
Yeah. So this is going to have all the bells and whistles along with the Tsunami 2 sound. I'm going to guess it's got LEDs in it for lighting, ditch lights. Looks like it's got the whole kit and caboodle. Some great pilot detail here with the coupler levers, MUs, and the brake rigging and all that good stuff. So this is the nose is pretty sharp too there with the door and the lighting kit there. So it's a really good looking locomotive. It's
I like the fact that it still has a Santa Fe on the nose.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, you still have the cigar band on this one. And
yeah.
They're the thing that immediately drew my eyes, it's a 3-digit number, which means it's an early order, and you'll still see these out of Galesburg. I've got some pictures. Of course, the red is more of a pink now. But it's neat to still see these out in the field. And I remember seeing these and thinking, most people would agree that the original war bonnet, like you see here, or what Santa Fe was calling the super fleet by this time,
right?
That's just an iconic paint scheme. I mean, it's just to me, it's as iconic as a Union Pacific armor yellow. And I thought at the time, I was like, oh, okay. I was kind of a BN fan, I'm modeling the CB&Q and early BN. I kind of like Cascade Green, but it's like, I could live with that. That's a cool paint scheme. And of course, they didn't go that route. But if you're modeling the early days of BNSF, that's what you're going to want to pick up. We're doing the Santa Fe version, pure Santa Fe as well, and the BNSF. And we're going to be making an announcement here pretty soon for another run of -9s. So if we didn't come out with your favorite paint scheme or road this past time, stay tuned. We'll probably come out with something that you're looking for.
I've actually physically run several -9s in my career.
Really?
Mostly UP, mostly from the UP on coal trains and stuff. And you're right. There's nothing like that growl and that gurgle. And then all of a sudden you hear that whoop, bump, 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 bump. And it's just unmistakable -9. Probably, I'm not a modern day guy at all. I'm similar to you. I'm 70s, early 80s, stuff like that. But for a modern engine, the -9 is one of my favorites I've ever run. Those things they're just strong too.
So yeah, Boomer Diorama River Road coming in tonight says, "Where's the Canadian teardrop window -9 cabs?"
We hear you, Boomer. I can't appease you just yet, but I can kind of appease you.
Ooh,
there's a GP40.
It's a new Jeep 40.
And I think we were talking at the show at the RPM meet, Mike, about how you and I were used to maybe second generation as like new locomotives on our layout, but some of the younger guys, Isaac out there, he's one of them. These are modern day switchers now. These GP40s, right. In my era, at least on the Boston to Maine, this was mainline, freight.
Well, those are designed. Those are actually originally purchased for intermodal service, if I remember right here. If I remember the history of them, and they were never really meant to do the work that they're doing now.
Right. Yeah, that's just it. I don't know if my camera will do it justice, but some of the see if I can get that roof up there. If you can see that piping that's there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm so glad I don't have to do that. I mean, I'm glad it comes like that from the factory. I just got to weather it and I'm done. But I mean, how cool of a locomotive would that be on your small? These are actually in hobby shops now. So Boomer, I don't know if that's going to strike your fancy for your current project. I don't think it's actually your line that you're modeling, but I'd figure I'd appease our Canadian friends.
Yeah, he says he's got tons of those.
He's got tons of those. That would make sense.
Yeah, that's outstanding. That GP40 is a cool looking model, and you said that that they're already out in hobby shops today, and then the -9s in the Santa Fe paint scheme, those are coming, and you said they're going to be available in October.
Yep, they're going to be available in late October. And Boomer, as far as those Canadian -9s with the teardrop windows, honestly, I don't know if we're doing those this next run or not, but I do know that you and some other Canadian friends have been hitting our product suggestion email pretty hard. So it's probably just a matter of time. I just don't know which release. But back to your original question, the -9 that I have here tonight, the BNSF, the Santa Fe. We've also got Norfolk Southern with the wide cab. The first run was the standard or Spartan cab. Those are going to be available the end of October. So definitely, if you didn't pre-order, get on the phone with your dealer now, type of thing. Because I've been victim of it myself. I work for the company, and I've missed a pre-order, and then I'm sitting here. I've only, to put it to you this way, I only have 2 of the 3 GP7s we announced 2 years ago. So get on the phone now if you want one of these.
Yeah, and save your money, and get those out there. That is super cool, Jim. Thanks for sharing that. And there's something else I want to just bring up briefly here. So again, we're diving deep into #NotSponsored tonight, but you do a live show just like we're doing here on StreamYard, and you call it Train Tuesday, right?
Yeah, Train Tuesday is our weekly program that we do. It's live every Tuesday at 7:00 p.m. Central Standard Time. And what we do is Athern. What we do is every month we come out with a whole variety of things, everything from locomotives to freight cars to even HO and N scale vehicles. And Train Tuesday, what we do is we break that up. And so one week we talked about, I believe it was the first week of September, we talked about the Genesis SD70 ACUs and the SD90 Max.
Yep.
We go a little bit more, what I like to say, down the rabbit trail. Okay. When we do the new announcements, we just kind of show what we're doing. It's like, here's the SD70 ACUs, here's the SD90 Max, here's the ballast cars, things of that nature, just to let everybody know that, hey, these are available for pre-order. But Train Tuesday, what I like to do is I like to get a little bit of history and background of the actual models. So we talk a little bit about, how Athearn worked with Canadian Pacific to come about those military and heritage units for the SD70 ACUs. And so it's typically just a 30-minute broadcast. We try to keep it short. We try to just get you the information that you want and the finer details. And then towards the end of the episode, I open it up for anybody that's joining us live. And I don't get all of the questions. I try to. It's kind of hard.
Sure.
I'm sure you can attest to that running a live stream like you are right now. But we do try to answer as many live questions as we can on the air, and it's a really great way for me to be in touch with the modelers. And when we had COVID and we couldn't do shows, it was a great way for me to interact. Although I missed the part of the people actually being in front of me and interacting with me that way. It's still nice to be at a show and actually meet with somebody one-on-one.
Yeah, and then that's you're right there. And then out of curiosity, and this is just me personally asking a question instead of putting it into the chat tonight. Are you going to be going to any train shows up in the near future here?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We're going to be going to Trainfest up in Milwaukee.
Trainfest?
Yeah, okay. And one of my favorite shows. It is probably one of my favorite shows, a show that I've been going to personally as far back as the mid-90s.
Nice.
And just a great time. Kalmbach, hashtag not sponsored.
Not sponsored.
is putting that show on this year. There were some great guys that were putting it on before, but there was some issues that couldn't be overcome. So Kalmbach has stepped in, and they're going to be doing this show again, and really looking forward to seeing it again. Like I said, it's one of my favorite shows. It's a big show. If you've never been to Trainfest, I highly encourage you to go. It's a great time.
Yeah, it's the first train show that I've ever been to as a kid, and still going to as an adult. So I absolutely love Trainfest, and I know Mike and I'll be there too. Yep. So make sure that, again, not to state the obvious here, but stop by the Athern if you're going to have a booth there, right?
Yeah, we're going to have a booth there, and we'll probably have some surprises that we have not shown before. So definitely.
And so Otter Creek and the Rio Grande is asking, where is Trainfest?
That is in the great state of Wisconsin.
That's right. It's in
Milwaukee.
Wisconsin.
And I tell you what, Milwaukee, boy, there's a lot to offer there. Not only is it one of the best train shows in the country, but it's also a place to get a good butter burger.
Yes, Cops, right?
That's right.
So you might think of Culver's has the best butter burger. It's Cops. If you're there in town, it's KOPPS. Yeah. Go to Cops. It is the best. It is the best burger. Hashtag not sponsored.
And if you're really mad at your stomach, you can go to a George Webb.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Don't forget about George Webb.
That's only that's Trainfest after dark.
That's for after dark Trainfest.
That's after dark.
Yeah,
hey, but
Jim, one thing. Oh, go ahead, Andy. Sorry.
They and Sully's. Yeah, Sully's has a fantastic burger as well.
That's right.
So let's So Trainfest is in the State Fair Park, and it's actually in a suburb of Milwaukee called West Allis. It's but just to the west of Milwaukee there, right off of I-94. It's a great show. There's a lot of good train atmosphere, so to speak. There's layout tours and all that good stuff. Plus you have Kalmbach right there. They're close by, as well as Walthers. Walthers is there as well, and some great train clubs and a lot of cool hobby shops in the area. Plus, Milwaukee is kind of a hidden gem for rail fan activity. So, after you go to the train show, you can go to the Potawatomi Casino, and then right across the street from the Potto Casino is a little rail yard there down in Milwaukee. So, you can get right up to the tracks and see. I think it's the UP and the CN that are down there in that part of town. CP, that's
CP,
it.
Yeah, that's Burnham Yard, I believe it is, right down in that area. And then if you go a little bit to the west, you have the Plainville where the CN and the CP cross. So that's always, and that's a busy diamond. Yeah.
So thank you so much, Jim, for sharing that, and I look forward to at least shaking hands with you at Trainfest this year for sure.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see you.
What I was going to say there, Jim, is that's one of the things I noticed you mentioned about being in person at the train shows and stuff and missing that. That's the first thing I noticed about St. Louis is that there are so many people. there was all the train stuff was almost secondary at that show this year. It was just everybody catching back up and seeing friends and just seeing everything. There was so much of that this year that it was fun. It made the show beyond fun, you know.
It really did.
The trains were really nice. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's what you go there for, right? And there was incredible modeling, but the catching up and the camaraderie and to seeing people you hadn't seen in 2 years, you know, and you know, like you said, just shaking hands and was more than enough for, you know, the price of admission, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, totally.
So
yeah,
Paul,
that's true.
Paul from the C&W and Mondovi line chimes in here, says Trainfest will be held on November 12th and 13th this year, 2022, at Wisconsin State Fair Park in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The show will be open to the public from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. both Saturday and Sunday. So come down and see some of your friends from the section crew. Athern, I believe Iowa Scaled Engineering is going to be there too. We talked about them. So I think it'd be a great time to come on down to old Milwaukee, which is Algonquin, for the good land, right? That was on a movie of some sort there, keeping the copyright thing going here. And yeah, come see us and hang out. It's going to be a good time. So you know what? I had a little plug for hashtag not sponsored tonight, but it's going to pale in comparison to what Jim had showed tonight. So I'll bring it up though anyway. This was kind of cool. Let's see here. Let's see. It's a hashtag not prepared, and I have it on.
So hashtag situation normal.
Yeah, hashtag situation normal. Let's see here. I'm gonna say it's on. It's called Grimm Brothers Custom Modeling. Custom models here. I'm going to share the screen here. Apologize for the dead air. And they're a 3D print outfit, and they do some other stuff, but they have some more modern vehicles in HO scale, and they put together some really cool like logging trucks and some bulldozers and dump trucks. So I found these just recently, and they put together some pretty cool models here. I mean, this little dump truck here, that's pretty good looking for a 3D printed model. So
I like that.
Yeah. So you can see the detail there. It's pretty good stuff.
Is that an international?
Yeah, it is. I think so.
So that'd be like 80s. That'd be like 80s era.
80s, 90s. They have some big semis here. Look like some big like wood chip hauler type things. Yeah, that's the wrong way. But you can see they have it all stretched out there. Little international cab over there. That's pretty cool, right? So some neat. It's one of the things that we kind of forget about is the vehicles, and I know Athern does some vehicles as well, right, Jim?
Yeah, that is really impressive.
Yeah, this guy.
Wow,
he's got some cool stuff out there. There was he had like this dumper. Looks like with a 6x6 there. You can see how it's started from that, and he painted it up. It's really cool. Some cool international, and I think he's got some Kenworth and Peterbilt stuff as well that he has. But again, I just stumbled across these fellas, Grimm Brothers, and they're out on Facebook. Grimm Brothers Custom 187 models. And it's some pretty cool stuff. So if you're looking for some details for your scenes on your industrial parts of your model railroad, these people are out there, and look them up. So that's my little segment for hashtag.
That's cool.
That is very cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, okay. So, I think we're through hashtag not sponsored here, and we're going to be taking our first commercial break of the evening. And we'll be right back here, but we'll bring you the Greasy Meat Hands band here to take us out. All right, fans, it's time for Shortline of the show. Mike, you've had some time off. You've been fidgety back there behind the curtain. What's going on tonight, Mike?
I'm having a conundrum with this one. All right. I'm having to bend a little bit of the rules. And I'm okay with it because this railroad is too cool to not talk about. So, all right. Let me get all limbered up here.
Oh boy. All right.
I got a text message or a Facebook message from Ryan Folk. And I was doing some research on the Indiana is where we're at. We're in the state of Indiana. And I'm sitting there looking around for different railroads. And is that me in that noise?
That fan? Yeah, that's your fan, Mike. I think I'm catching your fan.
Well, I turned it off.
Hold on a second.
Oh.
See if it's my fan. Might be mine.
There it's gone now.
There it is.
So that,
you can leave it on. Turn it back on. I was just wondering what the heck it was. Okay,
anyways, we'll edit that out.
Yeah, we'll get that edited out.
We're not editing that out.
We're not. No.
Hashtag not paying attention. What?
Okay. So, where was I? Okay, Ryan Folk sent me a few pictures.
Yeah.
And said, hey, if you need a suggestion. And I was doing something and I had one picked out and I was just like, kind of hemming and hawing about it. And he sent me these pictures and I'm like, okay, this is way cool. So this episode of Shortline of the show, we are going to, and here we go. Here we got to click and do my clicky thing. The Indiana Northeastern Railroad.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. 130-mile railroad. It actually
130 miles.
It actually comprises itself, which is actually much larger than the typical railroad I do for short lines of the show.
Right.
It usually I like try to keep them, kind of on the smallish, area. But this railroad, actually, the history of it began as part of the Pigeon River Railroad. And then that railroad later purchased, I believe, it says the Hillsdale County Railway. And that's what comprises their system.
Okay.
And I actually here's a map.
Ooh, I love it when we have maps on the show.
Maps are always fun, right?
Yeah,
and
maps are fun.
This is straight from Indiana Northeastern's company website. So it's accurate, So they connect at Montpelier, Ohio with the NS. And the majority if I remember reading the history correct, their original headquarters were based out of a grain elevator in South Milford. And now they're headquartered in Michigan, which is where the conundrum comes in. But because the railroad technically started in Indiana, I'm calling this an Indiana railroad. So, but the line is just way cool, and their motive power is amazing. Here's where I got there. This is their company website right here. And they are isn't that something?
Nice.
So for the people catching this back on the audio replay.
Yeah.
So the Indiana Northeastern, the paint scheme is, the locomotive's completely black.
Very reminiscent of the old nickel plate.
Yes. Yes, and it's got yellow trim on the sills, and then the chevrons on the nose and the rear of the train are also in yellow. It's a really
solid black locomotives with white
Yeah.
letters on the side, and it's really, really, really a neat railroad. They have a whole history here of the railroad where they began back in 1992.
Yeah.
It's just really cool, and it has a list of their commodities that they run, or that
So what do they run, Mike?
They help basically agricultural products, plastic, fiberboard, asphalt, salt, coke, and then they have aluminum, copper, coal, powdered limestone.
So a little bit of everything.
A little bit of every rendering products, which is
oh boy,
yeah, like powdered and liquid cow is what we call it at work. Oh, that's a car of powdered cow, or that's a cow, car of liquid cow. But fertilizers, oversized loads. They also, and I'll get to a little bit more of this, they are very railfan friendly from what I understand. They have hosted several excursions. Most notably, they have hosted the NK, what is it, the 854? The NKP, I have it right here on their YouTube page, as a matter of fact.
So they have a
NKP 760. There's a whole YouTube presence for this railroad.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of delay and block production.
Not sponsored.
Hashtag not sponsored. But they've hosted the NK, the nickel plate 765 already, and they've done several different things when it comes to that kind of stuff. And so if you want to see, and before you head out to that railroad, if you want to check this railroad out, head over to YouTube and take a little look. And because it's inspired me to want to go down there and catch them.
Sure.
I now want to take like 4 days off and just go down there and see it for myself.
So there's just a simple YouTube search for what is it, Indiana
Northeastern Railroad. Yep.
Yeah.
And then here's some of the photos that Ryan sent me. These are his personal photos. And Ryan, thank you very much for doing this. Thank you very much for the suggestion.
Yeah.
And just for all of you to understand in the future, this is going to become more of a thing. So with the short line of the show, I want more suggestions for railroads for the next. Like, we're going to do Iowa, and it's going to be next Iowa. So independent railroads, independent short line railroads. If you've got photos of them and you're willing to share them, let me know, and we'll figure something out. So this is just a stuff. Look at the size of those bins.
Wow.
Jeez.
Now, Andy, I know you have a history with the agriculture industry from years ago. How big do you think how many bushels do you think those things are?
I couldn't even, I have no idea.
Like 1 million, maybe? Bigger?
Possibly bigger. That thing is at least 100 feet tall.
Yeah.
If it's an inch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jim? Have you seen anything like that?
50, 60 feet wide.
That's enormous. I mean, obviously we don't have anything like that in New England, so.
Yeah, right.
But that is, I mean, even in Illinois, I mean, we've got some pretty good size grain operations out here, but those are just the cylindrical ones there off to the locomotive, our right and the locomotive's left. Those are just humongous. I don't think I've seen any that big.
And they're Brock bins.
Yeah, they're Brock bins,
they're
right?
Brock. Yeah, they're a Brock bin. You see, it's got the Brock lettering right up here on the very top, and it looks like that this industry must have, or this spot must be, kind of a Brock loyal, because this looks like it says Brock on it. Looks like that must be what all their metal there, because there's a couple of concrete ones over here, which is interesting.
That's probably their surge bins, or so their main storage bins will be on the right, which are those big. Well, I'm getting a couple of numbers here. So John, Gordillo says about 3 million. Tony Dixon says they're 60 feet wide by 110 feet tall. So
holy cow,
they're monsters.
Yeah.
So you're gonna put more than enough in there to make a couple loaves of bread, that's for sure.
Yeah, at least
that. So
yeah.
So again, their paint scheme. No, this is a GP9. It's if you look real close, long hood is forward on this one. It's designated forward with the bell right here. So I mean, it's
so the bell on the long hood forward. That's right
kind
on
of
the
a
top
classic.
Of the nose.
It's kind of a classic Southern type of thing, isn't it?
Right.
So they have a couple of GP30s still running, which is amazing. That makes it worth wanting to run down there to get them anyway. But look at the size of that train that they have.
Yeah.
The thing's got to be at least 50 cars. At least 50 cars. So this is no joke of a railroad. It is a short line by all definition, but they are definitely doing. Whoops! What did I do there?
Can't know.
Okay, here. Hold on a minute. I'll come back to it. There we go. There we go.
Wow.
And so these guys are running just like they're playing with the big boys. Look at that.
That's cool.
A Santa Fe GP7U.
Yeah, that's an old Santa Fe.
Wow. Yep. It's got the slanty roof on the cab and.
Yep. Is that called a Topeka cab? Is that what that's called?
Topeka cab. Yeah, that's what that is. Wow.
And these are a couple of their newer. I guess their newer acquisitions is this is actually an SD40-2. It says on the side, but it's a former I think Cotton Belt SD45 is what the history of it is.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can tell by the nose where the nose was.
The trucks too are a little different
the trucks are a little different. Yep.
Aren't those the flexi coils?
Yes. So just outstanding power. And here it's another. Look at that. I mean, come on. So, GP30 in the lead behind with a GP7U trailing.
Just really eclectic mix of EMD power here.
If you didn't know you were looking at a modern you took all the ditch lights and everything off, you would almost swear by looking at this that you were looking at the nickel plate, wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, something from the 70s.
Yes,
sure.
Absolutely. Yep. It's just absolutely, and this is
cool.
Right, and this is a really cool picture. I love the Rock Island hopper there.
So in the foreground, it looks like we have a GP30 there.
Yep. GP30.
So that's the Indiana Northeastern 2230. And then on the turbo blower there on the side, it has the Operation Lifesaver motto there, look, listen, live in white stenciling. And then in the background, there's a bunch of covered hoppers on the siding behind it, it looks like, with an old Rock Island bankruptcy blue with the big R stenciled on the side. I mean, that's a beauty. That's a cool perspective shot, and then just the mix of equipment that's in there. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, this is such a. And here again, look at you get a real sense of the size of these bins. Wow. Right.
So let me. There's a question here from Mark Stafford in the chat. He says, "Why are the long hoods designated forward and not the other way around?"
A lot of times when those were built back in the time, like 1950s and stuff, railroads would designate that. Some railroads did it for safety. Southern always did that and claimed it was always first. And Norfolk Western, I believe, was also another one that had that. That was
Northern Pacific was another one with their Jeeps and Alcos.
And I believe Great Northern also had some that were long hood forward. So it was like a safety thing.
Right.
Other places, other things that I've heard and reasons that they've done that, especially with the GP7s, is because when they were like in commuter service, the steam generator was closer to the cars.
It was on the other side of it was on the what we would call the front end in the Midwest.
So the steam generator would be closer to the cars. So they would just designate that and run those long hood forward. Same reason why you saw RS3s with long hood forward, or RS2s and RS1s would be long hood forward. The same similar reason is the steam generators are right next to the cars. So you didn't have to have that steam, didn't have to travel that extra 50 feet to get back to where it needed to start to go.
Right.
And in places like the East, in the Midwest, and the North, where it got really, really cold and can get really cold and things can ice up, that 50 feet can mean a lot. So, that's at least that's always been what I've understood it to be. I might be completely wrong, but that's what I've always been understood to be.
Well, you're getting a lot of like-minded comments in the chat there about primarily for the safety of the crews running the trains.
Yeah.
So
if you want also to check this railroad out online, all you got to do is hit up Flickr. And if you want to find out where to try to take a cool picture, there isn't anybody on Flickr who hasn't figured it out yet.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I don't even need to. I'm for those of you in podcast land, go to flickr.com. FLIC hashtag not sponsored. FLICKR .com. Just look up Indiana Northeastern Railroad. You will find everything you want to know, every photo about this railroad. These guys, these photographers have taken some outstanding photos. I'm just on the thumbnail page. I don't need to go any further and I'm in awe. Right. I don't even have to click on any of these. It's just amazing. The scenery for this railroad, they cover northern Indiana or northeastern Indiana,
right. Indiana Northeastern.
Yeah, northeastern
they got
Indiana.
It right.
Yeah, but then northwestern Ohio and like southeastern Michigan.
Right.
And so it's just gorgeous country. It's really pretty Midwest scenery.
Right.
So that's I do have one thing I want to share though. These at work showed up one day, and I can't remember where they were going. Matter of fact, I do remember now. They were going down to the malting house, and they're re-stenciled EIRR, and I can't. It was at
Eastern Indiana.
Is that what it is?
I think so. Yeah.
So, but this is the Hillsdale County Covered Hoppers, and these were in Manitowoc, Wisconsin. One time. So I had to take pictures of them because I'm like, when am I going to get a chance to see these again?
Never.
Yeah. And then I thought, when am I ever going to have a chance to tell anybody that I've seen these?
Chris fact checked us. It's the Eastern Idaho Railroad. I was
Eastern
wrong.
Idaho Railroad. Yeah. Well, Idaho, Illinois, close enough.
Nope. Nope.
Nope. but they're just very iconic covered hoppers. And I just thought they were really cool, and I thought I'd share those. But if you get a chance, go take a look at this railroad. It's got so much to offer, it looks like. And the one thing else that I noticed about this, everything is extremely clean.
It's so clean and well maintained.
Very well maintained
for old equipment.
Yep, they take a lot of pride in the way they're in their corporate appearance, and it shows. Even if you take a look at some of these photos here, their main line is no joke. There aren't weeds all over it. It looks like a good main line. So I think I've watched a couple of videos, and they were 25, 30 mile an hour trains going by.
Yeah, they weren't. They were moving along at a pretty good clip.
So if anybody, Ryan, thank you very much for the suggestion.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Awesome job. I'm sure Athern will be coming out with this paint scheme in the next run.
Might have to look into that. Got my interest anyways.
And that's the thing is sometimes things like this end up being diamonds in the rough, right?
Yeah.
So you just end up, finding something that, oh man, I didn't even know about that.
And I mean, that's begging to be modeled. I mean, you've got so many different industries that you can, work with.
Right. And I mean, as a beginner in the hobby, I mean, there's, all sorts of equipment that's available for you. You have a variety of rolling stock that you can get, with all the different commodities that they're hauling. I mean, this is a real nice entry point for someone who's looking to build a shelf layout.
And it's 2022, so I mean,
yeah,
they're running Jeep 30s, they're running GP 7s, they're running Jeep 9s plus SD45 rebuilds.
Right.
I mean, so where's the railroad gonna go motive power wise from there?
Sure.
With all the SD40, everybody and their brother, the SD40-2 has become the new GP9. It's everybody's got them, right?
Right.
So where does this railroad go? If you're, like you said, Andy, if you're getting in on the ground floor and you wanted a railroad to start building, and you didn't want to be part of the big boys and all that other stuff, but yet you wanted to run trains of some kind of length and still have industry switching to do,
this is it.
And all your motive power, especially if you stayed in HO, is largely produced by all the major manufacturers.
Right.
So not a lot of work to be done, and you've got to, any one of those locomotives for your layout.
Right. Exactly.
And I'm just gonna shoot this one right here. Well, I'm just gonna share this right quick here, right before we finish this up. On the thumbnail here, look at this: KCS SD70 Ace on the Indiana Northeastern.
There you go.
Are you kidding?
Hey, I almost heard the F-bomb there, Mike.
I'm like, right?
Yeah.
I mean, plus steam. You can run steam excursions on your layout. I mean, it's just begging to be modeled, like you said, Jim.
Yeah.
That is a cool railroad.
Ryan, thank you very, very much.
That was
I appreciate it. That was an awesome suggestion. Thank you. Iowa will be next. Get your suggestions in.
There's been a handful in the chat. People are calling for that traction railroad that's out there. So,
oh, gee. Well, yeah. What is it, the Iowa traction or something like that?
Yeah, it was. I think Justin brought it up.
So never know. We haven't really had a traction railroad, so that might be.
That was it, Mike. That was a great segment.
Thanks.
Yeah. So that was. There's one other thing I just wanted to touch on real quick for anyone who's new to model railroading, that type of thing, and is looking to get a bunch of good photos. Flickr is an amazing resource. So we're not sponsored by them in any stretch of the imagination. But Flickr is an amazing resource to get, right-of-way shots, locomotives, rolling stock, all that good stuff. And yes, like the buildings on the side and all that, it's just fantastic. I spend hours on Flickr just looking at train pics. So make sure you check out Flickr if you're looking for resources. That's one of them. So anyways, so let's get on.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Let's get on to the main event tonight. So I want to kind of talk about the topic of modeling in two scales. And Jim, you've been back and forth now. Started in HO, like you said in the intro. You migrated over to N. Now you're back to HO. So let's start at the beginning, right? Where else? So you got into HO at an early age. Why was that?
I think it's probably the same answer that a lot of folks do who are into model railroading now. At the time, we're talking the mid 1970s. HO was pretty common as it is now.
Sure.
But let's be honest, N scale was not where it is today. And, again, HO is a little bit easier for smaller hands to put the cars on the track and things of that nature. Sure. So my brother actually worked part-time at a hobby shop in Concord, New Hampshire, and picked this HO train set up for me for that reason. And I was literally, I think, 3 years old when he got me that starter set. So we did what everybody does. My dad went out and bought, I still have this too. And again, hashtag not sponsored. It was a Kalmbach book of model railroading. And so my dad went to the lumber yard and, got a couple of sheets of plywood and basically made a dog bone type. It was about 16 by 4 foot layout, HO scale layout with premium brass track, if you're old enough to remember that stuff. And as a kid, that's what I would run. And I'd look through, Railroad Model Craftsman and Model Railroader and look at the big, you guys probably remember the big ads in the middle of the magazine. They'd have HO scale on one side and N scale on the other side.
Right.
I'd save up my allowance and what have you for that Model Power 040 we were talking about earlier, or, the authentic scale Tyco RF16 and Rock Island Fire Engine Red.
Yep.
And, you'd run that. And then like all of us, we get older, we notice cars and girls and things of that nature.
Yeah, sure.
School, all those good things. So I kind of got out of it.
Yeah.
Took a little bit of a hike into model airplanes for a little bit. And,
okay.
And then I'd say probably about the time I was in college, on my way to college one night to learn more about what is now my career, I got stopped by what we call the Bow power plant move, which was on former Boston and Maine, at that time Guilford Rail, serving a Bow power plant, coal power plant, and it was Conrail back then. I just remember seeing these massive 6-axle C30-7s and thinking, that's kind of cool. And I've always been a mechanical guy.
Yeah.
I'm a big time car guy. Anybody that knows me knows that I'm a big gearhead.
Yeah.
Anything mechanical has my attention. And these things, these beasts, just definitely caught my attention. And so I started doing a little bit of research on it. And I was like, you know what, that's kind of cool. But I didn't have a lot of room for the HO scale layout. New England, it's kind of like, where she's from. It's kind of like Old England. We don't have a lot of room. We don't have the big houses that we do in the Midwest. And so N scale would allow me to do a really nice layout in a small amount of space. So I really dove deep into N scale. And then moving to the Midwest back in the late 90s, I got hooked up with some N-track guys.
Okay.
And started doing N-track, and throughout the years, just kind of really got into N scale. I really enjoyed for the first few years of N scale doing the super detailing of the locomotives and doing the prototype stuff. That really got me interested. And then the other thing that N scale afforded me was I could do a prototype layout, pretty scale. As I later on did the Galesburg City job, it was scale within a scale foot as far as the track work. When all the modules were connected, they were pretty close to scale. And you could do that in HO, but it would be a bigger endeavor. Whereas with N scale, at one time, the layout was made up of 2 guys, and my side of the layout would fit in a little Ford Focus hatchback, and I could go anywhere in the Midwest or New England to show my layout.
Yeah, right.
And so N scale does, definitely have its strong points. Now, moving forward, working with Athearn, of course, Athearn, like a lot of manufacturers, we sell heavily into HO. We do also carry N scale, but HO is still the leader as far as all the scales. Sorry, Mike, I know your S scale. No harm.
We had our conversation.
We did have a conversation. Yes, we did.
That'll be on the second section after dark. where we strong armed Jim into starting an S scale line.
Yeah. So yeah, I've started doing the HO again. It's been a little bit, and it's neat. A lot of the things that each scale has their challenges, especially depending on what era you're modeling. I think one of the biggest challenges for me, anyways, that is with both N scale and HO is vehicles. If you're modeling the 70s or the 80s, for whatever reason, you can get the same car that Magnum PI drove, or a Mustang or a Camaro, but you can't get the Oldsmobile Cutlass or the the Buick Riviera.
Right.
So that's one thing that's a little frustrating. It's getting better, and I do realize licensing for all the manufacturers that are involved is a big part of it, but it's also getting better too.
Yeah, certainly.
You could always just come over to 164th. We got all sorts of vehicles in 164th. I mean,
I know
you can pretty much get whatever you want for a car.
Everyone, turn the volume down. Just we'll come back in 30 seconds.
What's that?
No. So so we have a lot to unpack here. So I want to just go back and I apologize for doing this to all of our viewers and listeners, but you talked about model planes, so what were you big into with that? Was it like a military aircraft, or was it a certain era? So like World War II, Vietnam. What were you looking at with model planes?
So, funny backstory about me. I'm supposed to be a third generation pilot.
Okay.
My grandfather was a World War II U.S. naval aircraft trainer. He actually trained people how to fly aircraft in World War II.
Very cool.
That's awesome.
So naturally, I have an affinity for most naval aircraft. And when I got into RC, I was mainly involved into the scale models. And believe it or not, I mean, I was actually more into British aviation than I was American. Yeah, I was really, really drawn to that. I guess drawn to my roots, if you will.
Okay.
Did a lot of World War II British aircraft. I also did some Vietnam era American aircraft. And I think it's one of those things. I think a lot of guys that are into model railroading, you'll find that they might actually enjoy building scale, 1/25th scale plastic model cars,
right,
or various other things. And when it comes down to it, I think what we're doing is we're all modeling something in miniature that we're trying to replicate what is real. Because towards the end of my time of flying RC, I actually competed in something called RC scale.
Okay.
You would actually have an aircraft, and in my case, it was a Piper J3 Cub, very synonymous with civilian aircraft.
Right.
And not only did you have to make the airplane, have all the right fittings and fairings and details that the full scale would have. I mean, you actually went out there and got the end numbers and everything per the prototype.
Wow.
But you had to fly it like a Piper Cub. And that's really hard to do in RC because physics of the air don't quite translate to the size of the aircraft. And so, in reality, an RC Piper Cub, you can do these really tight turns, but in real life, a Piper Cub doesn't fly like that. And it's a lot of coordinated rudder and aileron. So you would be judged based on the appearance of how you took off, how you landed, how you did different, maneuvers. And of course, you chose maneuvers that were specific to that type of aircraft. So you wouldn't want to, choose patterns that would be more suited for a Spitfire, or
right. Yeah. Right.
You'd want something for a civilian plane. And so it was that. It was basically RC operations. That was really neat. So I did that for a while. I still occasionally fly. Of course, Horizon Hobby is our parent company. So we work in a big toy store. We have everything from radio control licensed Jeeps and Broncos to radio control Piper Cubs and Mustangs, and of course Athern. So Athern was a perfect fit for that. So, but I don't do it as much as I used to, because now working for Athern, I spend my daytime working on model railroad stuff, and then at night I'm encouraged to do more of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we're kind of transitioning from the HO into RC airplanes, and now we've dove into S scale, or to S scale. Gosh darn it, it's there. It's there. It is there. Yeah. It's seeping in. S scale is seeping in my brain. But to the transition to N scale. So you obviously went into it for the saving of space, right?
Right.
And being able to run some larger trains and fit more of the prototype into what you're wanting to model. So I see that you're wearing a Boston, Maine shirt there. was that the railroad that you primarily modeled in N scale, or what was your interest there? What railroads did you like to model?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, growing up in New Hampshire, in fact, where my home is now, I'm not far from the old Boston to Maine, what we call the Northern Line.
Yeah.
It was a line that went from Concord to White River Junction eventually, go through Lebanon, New Hampshire. And at one time, it was one of the more busier rail lines up until about the 70s. But as a child, my dad took me down there, and we still actually in my small town still had a leather producer.
Like a tannery?
Tannery, yeah, which was really cool. And they still switched out. You know, I remember seeing McGinnis boxcars being switched out, and watching that. And those, it's funny, as a child, those GP7s and GP9s look huge. You know, now you're just like, wow, compared to a Dash 9, they look minuscule. But at the time, those big blue locomotives that I was seeing in the mid 70s into the 80s before Guilford took over, that was what planted the seed. And then the final thing that really cemented my love for the Boston to Maine was my dad ironically worked at the airport in Concord, New Hampshire.
Okay.
And on a lunch break or something, my mom took me as a young child to go get lunch for my dad. And we were coming back, and I remember seeing a bright yellow International pickup truck high railer, which is what Boston to Maine used. They had a license with International, and it had the big McGinnis logo on the door. And I asked my mom, I'm like, do you think that guy works for Boston to Maine? And my mom's like, roll down your window and find out. So, I mean, we're pretty friendly in New Hampshire. So, I roll the window down, and I said, excuse me, sir. And he says, yes. I said, you work for the Boston to Maine? And he goes, yeah, I do. He's like, do you have a model railroad layout? I was like, yeah. You got any Boston to Maine? Well, no. You need to fix that. So that fun fact of catching that guy on a lunch break or something, that kind of cemented it for me. That kind of put the personal touch to that railroad.
Sure,
So I've had an affinity for that railroad ever since. And so in N scale, I've modeled Boston to Maine in 1975 roughly. And it's an interesting period for the Boston to Maine. Everything is in what they call the blue dip paint scheme. Very frugal. Alan Dustin was doing his best as president to bring that railroad out of bankruptcy that was spurred on by McInnes's, for a lot of different reasons, but one thing, spending a lot of money on new locomotives and paint schemes and things of that nature. But Alan Dustin was doing his best to take a frugal New England approach to bringing that railroad out of the ashes, and he succeeded. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on who you are, Guilford ended up taking over in 1983. But in my world, it's still 1975, and Foghat is played proudly from every AM radio on my way out. We have dirty, dingy Jeep 7s, 9s, and faded out maroon Alcos. So.
Yeah. So I'm just going through. You did share a handful of pictures with me, so I might embarrass you here live on screen. So just give me a hot second here. But here's a picture. It looks like one of the Jeeps that you sent me of the Boston and Maine. Okay. So let me pull up the old screen share here. Real quick ones. Maybe this one. Yeah, let's try that little guy. So this is one that you're talking about here, right? So this looks like a Jeep 9, right?
Yeah, this is a Jeep 9. This is based on what had appeared in 1975. Boston and Maine, they had their one bicentennial locomotive. It was a GP38-2 number 200, which had a really gaudy, I guess you could say, paint scheme. But what they also did was they applied just a simple red, white, and blue band to the nose of selected locomotives and put a Minuteman, which was their original logo, on the nose. So this is an N-scale model I did back in 2004. It's fully detailed. It was before BLMA had their fan kits, so it doesn't have the fan kit, but the winterization hatch, the lift rings, the grab irons, all of that. And the paint was custom mixed because even applied new, the Boston to Maine blue would kind of turn into a blue jeans look very quickly. So I pre-shade my stuff before I shoot it.
That's pretty. And this is the same locomotive, just a different angle, right?
Just a different angle, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome how you did the weathering on the side frames there too. That's really, really good. So let me ask you this. So this is an N scale. How, like, doing the detailing, like the lift rings must be just so minute. How, like, what did you do to not, I mean, like with me, with my greasy meat hands, those things would be crushed or lost on the floor immediately. How did you manage to get them in place, and then also to have them look as you know, as they were just there, like put by the manufacturer? How did you do that?
So this was, I'm trying to remember who made those lift rings. It was either BLMA or Sunrise. It's been a number of years since I did those, but fortunately with a lot of the N scale bodies like this Atlas body, they're just little tiny nubs. And so I would take a small pair of plastic screw cutters, cut that off, and I would have a pattern to drill a number 80 drill bit in there. And it does take a little bit of finesse, I guess you could say. I'm using some very fine tweezers and dipping it into a medium viscosity CA and putting it into that hole. The CA kind of fills any gap that you'd have, because actually, you know, number 80 drill size is pretty big in N scale.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's, I will say, I was doing that locomotive when I was probably in my early 30s, and I had the benefit of good eyesight. I don't know if I could do that anymore, to be honest with you.
Sure. So, okay, so the Boston and Maine, that's pretty sweet. And then
look at that.
Oh, look at this. So Mike's got to show us here. He's got a, looks like it looks a little larger than N scale.
Yeah, a little bit.
I just had to tease you. That's all.
Yeah, I know. That S scale is coming back. So Boston and Maine, and were you, what we talked about the CB&Q early on, or maybe even in the pre-show here. So how did you transition to not only model two different scales, but also kind of getting into a second railroad of choice as well?
Sure. About 1995, 1997 or so, I moved to Northern Illinois and took up a job for, I've heard of them. And at the time, I was working with their Floqual and Polyscale brands. And I would go rail fanning on the weekends. I lived up by the old CB&Q CNI out of Rochelle all the way to Savannah, Illinois.
Oh, there you go. Yep.
And,
okay.
Yeah, you know, in the late 90s, the BNSF was just a cornucopia of eras of paint schemes and motive power.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Where else at that time would you see a GP39M leading, you know, a fast freight to Chicago? It was just amazing time to be alive. But yeah, you know, taking weekends and photographing all through those small towns in Illinois, I started seeing what I call the ghosts of the CB&Q. I would see an overpass with that really cool Burlington route logo, or I would find some equipment that was not modern, but you do some research on it. It's like, oh, that's an old CB&Q signal or an old CB&Q overpass or things of that nature. And so I started getting curious, and around 2005, the BNSF was getting a little bit more homogenous, I guess you could say. I mean, there was a lot of wide cabs and one or two different paint schemes, and it really wasn't my cup of tea. So I did some research on the CB&Q, and I'll be quite honest with you. I mean, the thing that really drew me to the CB&Q was the colors. The colors on those, especially the Jeep 30. The Jeep 30, like you're showing right there, that's probably my favorite locomotive. And that paint scheme, the Chinese red and gray, is just, it just looks timeless. You know, when you guys covered the Shortline of the week a couple of weeks ago, the Bloomer line.
The Bloomer.
Heavily influenced by the Burlington. In fact, that line is only about 40 minutes north of me. So that's what drew me in. And it's one of those railroads, the more you dig into it, the more you do the research, the more captivated you are with them. And so another thing that really got me interested in the Burlington route was every year in Galesburg, Illinois, we have Galesburg Railroad Days, and of course, Galesburg, Illinois, was a big terminal for the CB&Q back in the early days before the big mergers. And you know, just seeing that era, and I was immediately captivated to the mid-century era of the Burlington. You've got this really cool Art Deco font, really cool paint scheme, and just one thing led to another, and I quickly became a member of the Historical Society and started collecting books and pictures. And then, of course, as you can see here, I modeled a GP30 back in the early 2000s for my N-scale layout.
So this is, again, N-scale. We're looking at an N-scale GP30 here. And the thing that draws my eye immediately, there's two things. But the first thing is above the Burlington route placard there's an engineer inside the cab.
Yes.
An N-scale engineer inside the cab of a GP30, and it's well done. I mean, it looks like he's wearing a set of black gloves there, and you can see the shadows within his clothing, and that had to be a bit of a process just to get the figure right, and then getting it inside the cab. And still, I'm assuming the locomotive ran perfectly too, right?
Now this one's actually outfitted with a decoder. This was another one that I super detailed back when I had some really good eyes.
Yeah,
and, I actually did it as an article for Railroad Model Craftsman back in 2011. And
that's fantastic.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I like to tell stories. This is one of those pictures where you look at it, and Roy up there in the cab is, talking to the guy in the F1 pickup truck there.
Down here, right?
What's going on at Butler? Yeah, but that scene there is actually would depict what Butler building off from Henderson Ave and Galesburg, Illinois would have looked like in about 1965 to 1967.
Wow. And so just to kind of give the audio listeners here, so that the Jeep 30, some of the details that are on here, I'm assuming you put on the windshield wipers on the cab.
Yes. Yep.
And am I seeing this correctly here? The number boards are backlit as well.
The number boards are backlit, and each number is an individual decal because
in
I
N scale
974. Yeah, I couldn't get 974 as one decal.
And then the trucks, it looks like you did some truck detail there with looks like a speed recorder.
Yep, we had a speed recorder.
Yeah, and then of course the lift ring detail on top. And I'm gonna guess was the horn custom, or was that with the kit as well?
The horn was custom. It was an aftermarket horn. And also I did put on grab irons along with the lift rings. And the paint was a custom mix because at the time we didn't have a manufacturer that had that. Now, fortunately, when I worked for Floqual, I had access to a lot of EMD and Alco and others color standards, and I would work with manufacturers. So I was able to get the color code so I could mix that up. And interesting backstory on this, I forgot to tell you, is anybody that's familiar with the CB&Q, they should be familiar with the 100 Years of Progress picture, which shows I think it's the 484 steam locomotive, the shovel-nosed streamliner.
Oh, wow.
And the GP30. The GP30, when they took that picture in the 60s, that was the top of the echelon for technology. But they staged that in Galesburg, Illinois.
Really?
They staged that in Galesburg, Illinois, and that picture captivated me to the point that I had to do that locomotive because I was taking this locomotive to Galesburg that following year for display, and then subsequently for the layout that I would take each year. And there's a Mars light on the top, so that's you can kind of zoom in out. You can see the red. It's just a little bit of Tamiya paint that I used.
But that's I mean. Excuse me, that is a phenomenal detail that most modelers wouldn't catch. That was a good eye there, Tom.
Wow.
This is so when you sent this picture to me, I was so happy that that you let me use it as the thumbnail for the show tonight, because this is a really cool, not just a locomotive and a model, but the whole scene. And then excuse me, with the backstory.
You gonna make it?
Yeah, I think I swallowed a bug or something.
Uh-oh.
But yeah, it's just a really cool scene.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
So did you, Jim? Did you have like how many locomotives from the CB&Q did you ultimately end up painting? Just the one, or
I did a number of them. The Galesburg City job originally had SW1200s. I never finished those. I did a stand-in. I did an NW2, and technically it was stationed out of Peoria, Illinois, just down the road. So I did that one. I did it in what they call the post 57 switcher scheme. So same.
Is that the black scheme?
Yeah, it's the black and gray, but it has the Burlington font. No longer does it say, everywhere west on one side, and it doesn't have the slogans like it used to. It's just the standard simplified switcher schemes. I did that with a Cato NW2. And then another one I did, and boy, did this one cause some controversy. In fact, I've got it behind me. I've got GP40 629. I don't think I sent a picture of this one to you guys.
How could you have ever done that one?
Yeah, it looks like I broke it already. You can see I got the handrail up front. I must have grabbed it wrong.
Greasy meat hands.
I did. BLMA had just come out with their door kits for Atlas and Cato locomotives, and I had to do it. And
That's
this one
awesome.
Too, I think
That's
this has got
really
the full fan kit. You can't really tell, but it does
you
have
can
the fan
see it.
kit.
Yeah.
That is so sharp.
That is really good.
But I caused a lot of controversy because I did this one probably in 2010, 2011. And, I painted it up. I've been a moderator over at Train Board for almost 20 years now. And I posted pictures of it. And right away, I had guys say, hey, that's great, but that never existed. And I'm like, what do you mean it never existed? And they said, well, it's the Burlington experimental paint scheme, but you've got the Burlington Northern patch on it. And I said, well, that's correct. And no, it's not. And so it went back and forth. Now, anybody that's got the newer books on the Burlington Northern in the early years by Jim Boyd, there's a picture of this guy sitting in Galesburg, just like this. And so I've always liked weird and unusual locomotives and paint schemes. And this was the only one they did like this. Mm-hmm. I mean, the subsequent orders, they had this paint scheme with the kind of the white stripe, but they did not have the Burlington Northern logo. And if you look carefully, I don't know if you can see it. It just says Burlington, doesn't say Burlington Northern. And so this was the only one they painted like this in the experimental Burlington Northern paint scheme. And I guess the idea was, let's start painting our locomotives like this. And then when merger day is coming around, we just add Northern to the battery box and we're done. So that is a late 60s. I've got that one set in 68, 69, if I remember correctly. And so that's another one I've done. And a lot of my rolling stock and such is pretty much everything you can see behind me. These guys here, these are custom paint.
Wow.
It's just something fun. It's something that, we're truly living in a really great time to be a model railroader. I mean, there's so many manufacturers, big and small, that are coming out with so many cool things, but there's still, I think a lot of us as modelers, we still take some pride in saying, you know what, I like that boxcar, I like that gondola, I like that locomotive, I'm going to make it myself and I'm going to make it my own. And there's a lot of pride that comes into that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sorry about the mishap there. I think I swallowed some static grass.
Uh-oh.
You're not supposed to do that.
Well, there's so much of it around these days. Anyways, so now that's pretty much where you're at on the N scale. Now you said you're getting back into HO.
Uh-huh.
So are you still holding your interests with the Boston and Maine and the CB&Q? I mean, you showed a couple of cool Santa Fe locomotives tonight in #NotSponsored. So where are your HO scale modeling interests at?
So my HO scale interest is predominantly Northeast, and it's really kind of odd. In the last year or so, I've really started to get interested in Penn Central and early Conrail. But there's also a part of me too that says, if I stick with the 70s and 80s, I can stick with that in N scale. I can stick with that with Boston and Maine. I've got a track plan all set up, so I don't really worry about that. But with the HO scale side, I think one of the more interesting times to model is actually right here and now. And,
really?
Yeah, basically looking at what we saw tonight, what Mike shared with us. That's a perfect example of, and it's a perfect answer for the guys that say, modern stuff's boring. It all looks the same. Not really. I mean, take a look at the Rock Island, the new Rock Island.
Right.
You've got a GP15 and a railroad that you can easily model in a spare bedroom in HO scale.
Yeah, right.
I'm sorry. Is that not the weirdest looking thing in the entire? I hate to say this. I love the bankruptcy blue, and I love the GP15-1. Those two together, for some reason, just don't look right.
It doesn't look right.
It does not look right.
When we announced ours back in June, we actually had some of the guys that hate the legendary liveries say, "Oh, look, it's another legendary livery," and I'm like, "No, it's real. That's a real picture. That thing does exist.
That's a thing.
It's a thing." And a lot of us guys, we like the lighting features that modern railroading has. I mean, ditch lights, things of that nature. So where else can you get second generation Jeeps or even GP7s, GP9s, but with modern Trinity freight cars or modern, center beam flat cars. And since a lot of these class 2, class 3 short lines are just that, they're short line, you can either take a segment of that railroad and model it like what I'm going to do behind me here, just a small L-shaped layout. And you can do a lot of interesting prototype operations in a very small area and still be pretty prototypical and have the variety that, the transition era had. So I'm kind of leaning towards something modern. And what railroad, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we talked about a little bit about, so how does working for Athearn kind of influence how you model today? So, I mean, is it make you a more detailed modeler since you're kind of looking at it from almost like a marketing perspective, or is it, like, oh my God, modeling, I'm modeling tonight, feels like I'm still doing work, like, so, like, let's unpack that a little bit. So how's that changed you as a modeler, if at all?
So I've been working in the hobby industry for 25, almost 30 years now. I started with Horizon Hobby back in the late 90s.
Yeah.
And I've marketed everything from, radio control airplanes to paint to now trains. I can honestly say that when I'm, punched in, if you will, sitting at my desk, I remember one of the guys I work with says, man, what's your favorite railroad? And I said, well, I'm wearing the Athern badge right now. So whatever is doing the best for our customers, that's my favorite railroad.
Yeah. Right.
So from a marketing aspect, and I don't really get to, believe it or not, myself and a lot of the other guys that are in the industry. And we talk, when we go to train shows, we all talk and, we compare stories and stuff. And it's like, none of us are playing with trains when we're at work. It's all of the, scheduling. This guy's going to do this review, or this magazine's going to do this review, or this magazine editor wants this information, that kind of stuff, the marketing stuff that you don't see behind the scenes. There is some that is done, like we just started a TikTok account. So I'll shoot video for TikTok, or I'll do short videos. We're hoping to do kind of an out of the box, this is in stock now, and have it on a layout. And rather than just seeing my ugly mug, you're going to see the locomotive while I'm talking about it. Yeah, because you don't need this in your living room every night. So
right.
But
here, we'll bring back the close up there for everyone.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as the work dynamic during the day, I mean, first of all, I love my job. I've always liked marketing, no matter what it is, and now it's just even sweeter because it's, out of all the hobbies I've had, the most passion I've had was for model railroading. It's the number one hobby I've never abandoned. So you have that. You also have, what I really enjoy is going to shows and talking to people. and seeing what they're doing. I mean, I generally get interested when somebody comes up to me and says, I'm working on this layout. It's such and such from such and such an era. I don't care if it's from the South, Canada, Mexico. I don't care. I'm interested. I want to see what they're working on, or I'll walk the show and see the different layouts, see the creativity that's out there. Those are the fun aspects. How it's changed my hobby. I mean, after hours, honestly, it doesn't really change me. I'm no different than anybody else that's watching this broadcast. I mean, I watch you guys. We talked about that. Boomer Diorama. I know you're out there. I'm a huge fan. I watch him a lot. He's an inspiration to all of us.
Yeah.
And if you were to look at my layout, if I were to say, Mike, Andy, come on over for an op session, you're not going to see just Athearn. I'm a model railroader. So you're going to see things from other brands. The same is true with a lot of the guys from the other manufacturers. They're model railroaders too, and they're gonna have a variety of what they need. If your railroad needs a certain locomotive and your company that you work for doesn't have it, you'll probably find it somewhere else.
Yeah, for sure.
So it hasn't really changed that much. I do have a lot more Athearn than I used to, especially HO. I had some Athearn N scale, but and it is kind of sometimes it is like a kid in the candy store mentality when our developers come out with 3 different Boston to Maine GP7s and HO, and they just happen to be the era that I enjoy. It's kind of hard to say no.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you'd owe your soul to the company store at the end of the day, right? I know where my paycheck's going.
Yeah, exactly.
Not to the tavern, it's to Athern.
And one of the things I always tell everybody, whether it be at a show or one of my lives, I can honestly say at Athern, 90% of the guys that work at Athern are model railroaders. Our developers, our lead developer, John Stackpole, huge Milwaukee Road fan, wealth of knowledge on Midwestern roads, solid modeler. He actually models in both HO and N. So been active in model railroading for years. His dad owns a hobby shop. He's a good component to Athern because he's got the retail experience. He's also got the business experience. Plus he's got the modeler experience. And again, very avid in his area. Another one of our lead developers and researchers, Janik Bringle. He's been on the live with me a couple of times. Another phenomenal modeler. He's in the Fremo HO. He does a lot of the really cool. He's been doing a lot of Kodachrome stuff lately.
Really?
And just him. He's dangerous to talk to. I can tell you that much. He's just got so much information. And all of our guys that are in our research department, of course, they're model railroaders. Some of them have been doing this since the 1960s. We're blessed as a company to have that much knowledge on not just the full scale prototype, but the models as well. And our guys are active. So that's great when you've got a team made of active modelers.
So how does having a team set up like that help to influence the product line? How is it a situation kind of where, everybody put your hand up, who likes this? And hey, let's go try this. Or is it one of those things where you say, wow, like when everybody came out and had the big NS craze, when everybody went and did the, everybody and their brother was trying to make the NS heritage unit engines, where you kind of need to jump on whatever's trendy at the time,
Sure.
Is there could you, without giving away any real secrets, could you kind of walk through the process of the method of the madness there?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things that we have in our arsenal, I guess you could say, is our customers. It's true. And I jokingly say this on our live feeds quite a few times. I mean, if John, Janik, and Jim were running Athern, it would be Boston to Maine, Rock Island, SP, it would just be those roads. We wouldn't have any Southern. We wouldn't have any, Canadian National or what have you. So what we rely heavily on is our email that goes directly to product development. And if you don't mind me saying, it's the Athern-product suggestion email. And we get people all the time sending, hey, if you do another GP38-2, can you do a Grand Trunk Western in the blue and Morency orange? or can you do this? Can you do that? And what ends up happening is Athearn has a meeting, usually annually, and we try to plan out what we want to do for that coming year. And we sit down and it's like, okay, we're going to do GP38-2s. Holy cow, we've got over 400 requests for a blue and red Grand Trunk Westerns.
Yeah.
That's a no-brainer. We're going to do those. And then we're going to go ahead and start doing the research. We get our research from a number of locations, be it historical societies, some of the experts in the field. We work with those guys. We get all the modeling that has to be done. And so on that point, say road names and things of that nature, it's predominantly done by feedback. And occasionally we will do a survey. We're coming out with a GP7 in the Genesis line. And we took all of the requests for road names for the GP7. We took the top 10, we put it in a survey, and we put it out there on our social media and said, hey, what would you like to see to be the next release?
Sure.
And we get great feedback from our customers.
Yeah.
So like along that lines too, have there been times when everybody, you look at each other and it's just like, man, things are just not adding up for this next year coming up. We've already done X, Y, and Z how many times? We need to, there's a ton of requests for these, but we really need to look at a different avenue here as to how to do this. We have the engine planned out. How do we, just say like the GP38-2, there's how many different railroads have those,
Sure.
So eventually you get to, I suppose you get to a point where, okay, we've done all the ones that are really super popular how many times and done how many runs. Now, how can we pique interest in this model and make it different yet keep it the same? You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because I mean, there is a dollar value involved in this. It's not a cheap exploit by any stretch of the imagination. Even come up with a new paint scheme can cost a lot of money, right?
Yeah, and I mean, just on the surface, the paint scheme, but you bring in using the GP38-2 as an example. If you're doing Union Pacific, okay, on the surface that seems really simple. Okay, it's going to be armor yellow and harbor mist gray with a red stripe. Well, wait a minute, hold the phone. Are we talking red sill, yellow sill, 1980s, 1990s? Is it a pure Union Pacific locomotive? Was it ordered by UP, or is it a former locomotive?
Is it a former Mopac?
Right,
is
exactly.
Is it old Mopac? Is it
exactly? And so that's the devil in the details type of thing, where you have to really take a look, especially nowadays, because our modern Class 1s are made up from so many former Class 1s that the lineage of a locomotive sometimes. Look at BNSF. There's still locomotives that have been repowered that were originally CB&Q and Great Northern.
Yeah.
And so those details will keep coming. So we can usually say, hey, should we do Milwaukee Road billboard or should we do Milwaukee Road delivered? And that's gonna set our researchers off into doing something. Now, to kind of answer your question you were asking about earlier, how do you do something where you've done it so many times? How do you still get some mileage out of it? If I'm understanding the question correctly.
Yeah. Like how do you make the old still seem new after doing it how many times over and over and over again?
Sure. Well, one of the things that, fortunately for us, our hobby is always evolving, both in the prototype and in the technology we use for our hobbies. Case in point is the GP15s. We announced the GP15s back in June. And if you think about it on the surface, I mean, EMD didn't sell a lot of those locomotives. They were originally an answer to Paducah Jeeps. EMD is like, hey, instead of rebuilding these Jeep 7s and 9s, we'll just sell you a new locomotive.
Yeah.
But in the end, they didn't sell many of those GP15s. Conrail was a big purchaser and Mopac was a big purchaser. But other than that, we've had that model for a number of years. But you start looking at, we'll start with the prototype. you suddenly have railroads like the Rock Island that's resurrected an old paint scheme and bought the rights and the licensing for all that. So now you've got something that 10 years ago would have been pure fantasy that's an actual prototype.
Yeah.
And we can add ditch lights to it, which the GP15 didn't originally have, ditch lights. And then something else that we do is, again, since our two developers are hardcore hobbyists, they realize, hey, you know what people like? People like lighting functions. So the GP15s, rather than just doing the same tooling that we've been doing for the last 2 or 3 runs, we updated those. So now they include lit number boards and, truck lights. That's something that they didn't have the last time. So we try to fill a couple of voids there. Somebody that maybe bought the Mopac GP15s in the original run will offer more Mopac GP15s, but in different road numbers. So they'll want to get on board and add to their fleet. Or for the guy that's looking for a neat short line to model that's not a Dash 9 or an AC 4400 or some 6-axle behemoth, they can choose this guy. They can choose this GP15, and it's got the lighting features that they want. So that's one of the ways that we can do it. And of course, another way that we've done it, and I'll be honest with you, it's probably one of the most polarizing things that we've done in the last 10 years is our legendary liveries.
Yeah.
We did the DDA 40X and the proposed bicentennial paint scheme that was never happened. It was voted down by 1 vote, but it could have happened. We've got documentation and permission from Union Pacific Railroad to say, yes, this could have happened if one person had voted yes that morning.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. That's really cool. Kind of cool. Sometimes as modelers, regardless of the scale, it's really easy to sit there and complain about what's, you're not doing this, you're not. And I mean, you being a model railroader too. I mean,
right.
I know for a fact you've probably done the same. Oh, geez, I really would like one of these, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But to be able to pull back the curtain just a little bit and understand, it's not just, well, these guys are doing this for whatever reason. There's always a method behind it, right?
Right.
And there's always a reasoning behind why things are going on. And sometimes, and correct me if I'm wrong, but sometimes it's just plain economics. It just won't, it won't work.
Right.
There's the numbers just don't come out. And and sometimes you take a calculated risk, right?
Oh, definitely. I mean, we get requests for, certain locomotives, certain road names, and unbeknownst to a lot of our customers, there is licensing involved.
Right.
VIA is very much a licensed railroad. And so if you've ever, as a consumer, enjoyed VIA, but your favorite manufacturer has come out with a VIA offered item, and you're like, well, wait a minute, why is the VIA version of this $10, $20 more when, the MBTA or whatever version is $20 cheaper? That's because of the licensing. And unfortunately, the manufacturer has to they can eat some of the cost, but not all of it. We have to pass that on. And, it is a calculated risk because I've seen this in the hobby industry for 25 years, whether it be trains or plastic model cars. You may see a perceived demand for a certain item, and you will go ahead and do that item, and you're rewarded with a lot of sales. And sometimes it doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes we will release something and it wasn't as big as we expected. So yeah, there's definitely a calculated risk. I mean, while we are predominantly model railroaders, we also realize that we have to eat every day.
Hey, you got to make a little bit of money, right?
You're still a business at the end of the day. You're still a business, right?
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
I mean, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing if you weren't trying to make money. I mean, that's the purpose behind it, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
I mean, sometimes for me, I when I was an HO scale, I'd be like, man, I can remember buying this engine for $25 and then doing the detailing on it. But then I started doing all the math as to how many details I was putting on it. And I'm like, man, it's almost cheaper just to buy it already done. It's almost a wash,
Yeah.
and then add DCC and sound into it.
And
Right.
you
lighting.
know, especially sound, you know, and the lighting and everything else like that. These are all things that 35 years ago or 30 years ago, they didn't exist.
No.
You know?
No.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I mean, one of the things that that reminds me of is back in the 80s when I was doing HL. I was I was blessed to have a hobby shop within walking distance, and he was just a train shop. All he did was N and HL. But going and getting a blue box, in fact, spoiler alert, getting a blue box, you know, like my F unit here, and you know,
bring
getting
it back
some,
up on screen there. Yeah.
there you go. You know, getting the Walther's detail kit and maybe some other details. Okay, and then some Accu paint and some Accu cows. My friends out east probably remember those two names.
Oh yeah.
And you know, you would build what you wanted. You'd paint it, you'd detail it, you'd decal it, you'd do all that work. But I've noticed though, and I'm sure you guys have noticed, I'll kind of ask this question. Have you noticed how phenomenal people's layouts have looked in the last 10, 20 years?
Oh my God, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the quality of layouts and modules that I see at shows or YouTube is just a bastion of just beautiful layouts that we didn't have 20 years ago. Those types of layouts were reserved for the Tonys of the world, you know, the V&Os and those guys. Those were the guys that got the full spread in the magazines. And not to take away from their layouts, but when we started, you know, when we went from this here and, you know, came to a locomotive that's prototypically accurate to the actual number of the locomotive, where maybe the only thing we've got to do is program it and weather it. We've got more time to work on our layouts now.
Right.
And we've got more time to learn how to make backdrops or make trees more believable or all of that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, you're right. I mean, sure, you know, this locomotive here, I can tell you right now, I mean, retails for like $330, and yeah, that's a lot of money. Let's be honest. My blue box F unit, I think I picked that up in 1986 for $5, brand new.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah, but you got to realize too the economics. I can also tell you that you know, a Mustang in 1979 was about $54,000.
Right, dollars worth a little bit different now.
Yeah, my mom and dad. My mom and dad
now,
paid $24,000 for their house.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, you know, economics have changed. You know, you look at that same Mustang, and now it's a sticker of $54,000. That house is now 125, depending on where you live in the world. And so economics has definitely changed, and of course, just the raw material that make up our hobby, the plastics, the material that it takes to make all those components, that's gone up.
Microchips.
Microchips certainly have gone up.
Big time.
And you know, the one thing that I don't know if people really realize is just the amount of time that developers spend on a project. This -9 project right here, the developer that worked on this spent 3 years of research.
Yeah.
That's 3 years of sitting down and looking at the actual GE blueprints, taking pictures, getting information from contacts, whether it be at GE or a certain railroad, learning that every single GE locomotive, depending on the road that they were going to, had different features.
Right.
Getting all that information compiled and then putting into a CAD drawing, and then spending that time. I mean, you gotta pay that researcher, you gotta pay that developer, and then that's all done way before a mold's ever cut.
Yeah, you got to do the tooling after that, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, Andy. Then once you have the basic drawing done, now you got to deconstruct the drawing in order to get all the separate individual tooling done.
You got to figure out the process
parts
for manufacturing
and the process, and I mean, it's just so. I guess what sorry if I'm hogging all the questions, Andy.
No, you do helping my voice get back for what's on your workbench.
Yeah, so I'm going to pick your brain here just a tick, okay?
Sure.
Is there in the hobby or in the model railroad, not manufacturer, but regardless of who it is, Athern, anybody else, is there a specific locomotive that has not been done that you would really like to be seen done personally? Whether it's something that pertains to your current layout situation or not.
Sure.
It's just something you would just like to see done. Because I know I've got one.
Yeah, I'd be interested in hearing that. I've been fortunate. The Boston and Maine was pretty much an EMD railroad. So with all the big manufacturers, I'm pretty much all set. If I wanted to get really bizarre on you, I'd say the RS 1325. There was only 2 of those made.
See, that's a good one.
Yeah.
See, I would say the GP28.
Oh, that's a good one too. Yes.
Now, if you stop and think about this, Athearn already has the 35 frame. They already have the 35 long hood tooling. All they have to do is the cab, the nose, all of that's the same. Everything's identical. It's just a retool of the long hood.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing that out there. I'm just Illinois Central, Ashley Drew and Northern, Fortis and Princeton. I could go on. The list could go on.
It's like there were only this one loaded up.
But there were only 26 ever built.
Right.
Tenken is another one. That's actually a really popular railroad to go and for people to go and shoot. It's
something to think about. I mean, one of the things that we're fortunate to have in this modern era. I mean, if I had told you 5 years ago that a major manufacturer would make an SDL 39, you would have laughed at me, or a certain prototype of freight car,
right?
That was only Canadian based, you would have laughed at me. But we've got manufacturers that are making these. So, what you're talking about isn't, maybe 10, 15 years ago would have been bizarro world, but we're not there anymore. I mean, and every once in a while, Athern and other manufacturers, we will take a step, we'll put our toe in there and see what's going to happen. And so far, I think all the major manufacturers would agree that, taking that risk has paid off. So who knows?
Carbon black cars. Who'd ever thought carbon black cars would even even be something that, and I think there's a couple of different companies making them now.
Yeah.
And they're coming in every shape and size.
Right.
So, I mean, it's just, I didn't even know that was a thing up until
we just announced the National Steel Car 6400 modern gondolas. And, it was one of those things where we're not alone in the field, but it's one of those cars that hadn't been done before. But we had so much feedback from our email, guys wanting those cars. And okay, on the surface, it may not look like it would make much sense, but when you see the feedback that we're getting, it's like, you know what? No, we can do a new tooling for this. We can do this car, and we fully believe that there's enough guys out there to support manufacturing runs of these cars, both present and future production.
That's awesome. It's all really interesting. It's for being a prototype railroader as a career. Friends of mine and a couple of them are in the chat. We have a saying where it's the inside looking out. Mm-hmm. And then you have most modelers are outside looking in at the industry. They're taking, but we're at an advantage where we see the industry firsthand, so we get to see it inside looking out.
Sure.
So it's the same approach as this is, for you, it's inside looking out. And for us, it's like outside looking in. It's really neat to see, like I said before, to have the curtain pulled back just a little bit and understand the process,
Yeah. And it's for me, it's to see that the manufacturers or the people that are working for them are also modelers too. Right. So, it's not just they're in the ivory tower, making the decisions. They're, they're real people too, and they're missing out on pre-delivery or pre-orders and these things too. So now when I hear that, I'm like, oh geez, I don't feel so bad now. So it was, I think that's good to see as well.
And there's a lot of water between here and overseas.
Right.
Sometimes you can't help what happens. Sometimes you can't help what happens, but between there and here, everything can be on schedule. Mm-hmm. And then all it takes is one storm and things are wet.
Yeah.
Things are wet.
Absolutely.
Which has happened to several hobby manufacturers here in the not too long ago.
Right.
Unfortunately, it's just the reality of it, and it's no fault of the manufacturer. It's just an unfortunate issue.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. That was a pretty stellar main topic discussion. That was.
Yeah, thank you, Jim, for kind of, like I said, pulling the curtain back a little bit. And
definitely.
we're not done with you yet.
We're not done yet. We're gonna take a short commercial break here. We'll fire up the Greasy Meat Hands band, and we'll get to our final segment this evening. We'll do lightning round. What's on your workbench? All right, so we're back here with what's on your workbench this evening. Before we go to the viewers, let's take a look. Mike, you got anything on your workbench?
Nope.
Okay, moving along.
No, I do. Here's let me see if I got. Let's see, what have I got here? Well, you know what? I'm not even going to show pictures. I'm just going to show it.
Pictures. Show the real thing. You got.
I'm going to show the real thing. I've been doing a lot of work on my depot for my Farland terminal. This is a Scenery Unlimited.
Scenery Unlimited S-scale depot kit. Okay. Is it any specific prototype?
Yeah, it's actually a Milwaukee Road prototype.
Nice.
Very nice.
Yeah, and Tom Johnson talked me into putting in my buildings and structures, and showed me how and explained to me the reasoning behind putting structures on a base and then scenicking that. And that's what I've started to did that with my engine house. I'm doing it with, I'll have all my structures will be on bases and then scenic and then put in place. And I have the screws here so that they stay in place once I place them there. But these will be covered up with some scenic material at one point. But I also got done doing, the one neat thing I did with this end is, I don't know if it'll show up real good. I put my Farland terminal logo on the end because that's the end. That's the end that shows. Okay. That's the end that you see it when you walk in the room. But then I also just got done doing some shingling, and I shingled all the roof components.
Now, Ralph Ranzetti's asking, is that laser cut?
Yes, it is. It's a laser cut kit.
Nice.
Yes, it is. And so now I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to paint the roof, I guess would be how I'm going to color
the shingles, right?
Color the shingles. How I'm going to do that is going to be my next step. So I'm sure I know for a fact there are some very good expert opinions that are going to come out on that, and I look forward to it. But I have also been a little bit busy doing some backdrop work. I've done some scenery on my layout, or I painted the shelving on my layout as a base to help seal it for scenery. I've made static crafts tufts. Thanks to watching Boomer and Luke Towan, both of them taught me how to do that, and then I took mine one extra step than what those guys did.
Yeah.
And yes, and I'll show it here quickly.
We're gonna have to do a screen share.
Yep, I'm just gonna do a quick screen share.
I'm ready here. I'm ready.
So your static grass tufts, when you have them and you make them, this is even better. This is the way they came out. This is just a piece of parchment paper right here, and then I have matte medium down, and I'm using 6 mil. Sorry, Boom, for my tufts. Even though I'm in S, it's just it works out really good in that size. So this is the way my tufts ended up being, and I have some lines here and stuff like that, and then just little tufts all over the place. So I thought, you know what, something looks like it's missing here. So what I went ahead and I did is I added some dirt to it.
Yep.
Oh, nice.
And so that way that, you know, the matte medium absorbs that, and then it makes it. Boomer has a video where he shows how to do this, and so does, like I said, so does Luke Towan. But it'll almost look like leather on the back,
right?
And it gives you just an extra added layer of depth to your tuft, and so this is one of the things that I've started working on. I haven't looked at freight cars or a locomotive in a long time. I am so into doing this scenery stuff right now.
Right.
And it is so much fun.
Nate.
Yeah. Thanks. It's just really fun to do that, to kind of see the scene come alive, you know, or start to take shape.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That's what I've been working on. How about you?
How about you, Jim? Oh, I was going to say, yeah. Have you been working on anything modeling or?
Well, actually, it's behind me.
Yeah.
I've been working on the new layout. So, actually, Andy, I blame you, because I was watching your podcast, and it went from, you know, there's a layout, and then suddenly you had this really nice valance, and I'm like, wow, that's really cool. I like how we did that. So, briefly, what I'm doing, you can kind of see here.
Yeah.
I'm using the steel rack system.
Yeah.
I've seen some other guys use this. Because I do live in an old farmhouse, when I'm in Illinois, I actually built 2x4 foot walls behind me. So I could actually stage it. It's almost like a Hollywood setup. But I did this valance here out of 1x3 lumber.
Yep.
There's some LED strip lights under here, and then a 6-inch valance. This will be painted after all the screw heads are filled in and all that. And then the reason why I'm using this rack method is I'm hoping the next thing I'll get done is the backdrop, which will cover up the metal that you see behind me.
Yep.
But the modules, I'm building 4 foot by 16-inch modules and 2 special corner modules. And whether it be for myself or for Athearn marketing, it's made to be modular. If I want to do N scale, I can put in the N scale modules. And the only thing I'm changing out is the modules themselves. They come out, and then I can switch to HO and back and forth.
Oh, that's a good idea.
There you go.
Yeah, it speeds up the process of taking pictures. Also, too, I'm fortunate enough that I got some friends that like to come over for operating sessions. So, you know, if we want to, hey, let's do HO tonight. Okay, we can do HO. We can switch out the modules and you know, maybe 15 minutes, and that's it. The other thing too is the way I've designed the modules is if I go to a show, I really like taking my layout to a show and showing it to people.
Sure.
So they are designed so that they will sit on special feet that I've made in conjunction with these metal brackets.
Yeah.
But they also have an L girder style leg that bolts onto them, and so I can take them to a show and set them up as a freestanding layout.
Was that? Did you build that little switching layout thing that was at St. Louis? Was that yours?
Yes. Yeah, that was one of my little layouts.
That's actually really cool.
Thank you.
I forgot to take a picture of it. Otherwise, I'd throw it up there. But I just remember it's actually really neat looking.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, nice. So you've been busy then. That's awesome.
Been busy, yeah. I've been making a lot of dust in the workshop, so that's a good thing.
That's a good thing, right?
Yes,
Make sure you pick it all up and collect it.
Yes.
So I've been doing a little bit of work on the layout as well. So I've been, you know, again, diving deep into some scenery on the scene behind me here. And you can see here, I'm getting some track detail work done. I'm putting in the joint bars in the track and getting it all weathered up. And let's see here. And then I've been working on putting together basically a rock cut scene. So these are just plaster casts that I've actually they're from molds that I made when I was a kid, with like a gauze and latex rubber, and and then basically took a rock out of the backyard, hit it with a sledgehammer to get this cut face, and then I made rock molds out of it. So these are the castings from that, and then I just colored it. I actually been practicing using my airbrush with that to kind of get the depth and the shadow. And again, this is the boomer trick, is using super thinned paint. And I'm using that Tamiya paint. And every time he comes out with a new video, I have to go and buy a new can of Tamiya paint.
Yeah.
Mike was saying that too, right?
Yeah. I think I must have bought 20 bottles of paint Tamiya in the last 3 weeks.
Yep. And then just adding the basic ground foam and getting my little bog scene set up. And I made a dead tree here, and, just essentially, building this first scene. And I've really been diving into it, and it's starting to take shape. So very excited about the work. And I'll just bring up my backdrop here real quick. So if I get out of the way, you can see I've added some static grass, added some more rock molds, that type of stuff. And it's to the point now where I'm building tiny little undergrowth trees here. So this is actually sedum that I picked from the garden, and this is an adaptation of a boomer tree. So I put some static grass on the end of it to kind of give it some body, and I'll paint these up with the airbrush and add these to the layout as undergrowth that will be supporting the scene underneath my big trees. So it's a work in progress, but I think the team, or the section crew tonight, has been patiently waiting for their stuff to get up. So I'll go and bring up the Facebook page. There are a lot of entries tonight on what's on your workbench. Some good discussion out there as well. So let me pull up the screen share here, and we'll have to put out a winner tonight for who gets workbench of the week. So we got 61 comments tonight. Again, we'll try and do the speed round here. So we have Michael Shanky on his workbench are some Athearn WSOR locomotives, debating hot sauce or not, but yeah, I think he got the hot sauce in there, and then looks like a nice little stable of Wizard locomotives.
Quite the fleet going there, isn't he?
Yeah, he's got quite a few nice locomotives, and then he's got a second section there on his tablet. That's bonus points there, double bonus points. So you can't see this, but in the top of the screen here, you can see it in the feed. But he's got a TV screen with Athern logo on top of it. So obviously knew what was happening tonight. So Michael Shanky with the very strong entry in what's on your workbench right off the bat here.
Details.
Yes, details. Very good. Matt Berman here finished up 12 anhydrous ammonia nurse pups for the fertilizer dealer. This is really, really cool.
That's neat.
That's a lost detail right there. If you're doing egg stuff,
these pup tanks,
the pup tanks. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So Matt, if you're out there in podcast land tonight, I have a need for these as well. So if you could tell me where you got those from, and I'm assuming they're an HO scale, and it looks like they're an HO scale. I'm going to need a fleet of these for my second model railroad. So let me know. Very good, Matt.
Very nice.
Let's see. Jake Etling here. He's on my workbench is the beginnings of the Mill Valley Motors. Got parts coming in today and slowly turning this into an auto manufacturing facility. Ignore the clutter besides the mock-up building unless it earns me bonus points.
I want to say that I had that farmhouse or that farm in the silo.
This one down here.
Yep, I had that growing up. I want to say that was an old Plastra kit at one time.
Huh.
Yep, I remember that kit.
This is an enormous complex, Jake. This is going to be quite the building. Please keep us posted on your progress with this one. So you're going to get some bonus points there for the clutter. That's using some good maximization of your workspace here for storage. So yeah, you'll get a couple bonus points there. Nice job, Jake. All right, John Whithouse here. Before I left for Wisconsin Dells on a mini vacation, I finished the DCC on the KTRY transfer caboose. This is a cool little project that he has going on.
Yeah, he's been working on that for a little while.
Yeah.
That's coming together pretty nice.
Yeah, very good, John. Nice old Q-tip here in the bottom of the workbench scene. That I got hundreds of those on mine. I can't even show you right now. And then John Whithouse again here, the Alco S6. Of course, I finished the weathering, the dull coat, and the caboose too before I left. Look at that. So the Cara Terminal Railway, that's a cool little freelance railroad that he has going for him. So that's nice. Good use here. The paint caps here for model stands. I like that.
Good idea.
That's a good idea. And looks like we got some little free space here at the front end of the workbench here. We could get at least 2 or 3 more projects in there. So nice work, John. Nick LaRusso. Oh, look at this. Getting ready to weather a couple of hashtag not sponsored Rapido FP9s and a Steam Jenny for my section Continental. So beautiful use of the workbench here. Got at least 3-4 projects on there. The locomotives are fantastic. I'm seeing some sort of taco sauce here as well. This is fantastic. He's got the second section Facebook page up in the background for bonus points. Nick, this is a very good entry for what's on my workbench. And then the markers are lit for the second section. Now nice. Look at this.
No,
so his class light markers are lit for second section.
I tell you what, that's awesome.
That is going to be hard to beat.
Wow.
I mean, we could stop right now.
Right? We're done.
We're done. Now
thanks,
we're
everybody.
Keep going.
Good night.
Simon Hill making progress with the Duke.
This is coming along so good.
Isn't this awesome?
That is so good.
That's a beautiful, beautiful model. Beautiful brass steam creation here. I love this.
I don't know, Jim, if you saw from our past episodes when he started doing that. I believe that he started with just flat brass. Is that how he started doing that? Yeah.
That's amazing.
Angus Van here just finished the first Mac Ultraliner Proto Freelance Class 2 Nipissing, Ottawa Valley, and Algoma. Railways Trucking Division beginning to work on the Detroit and Mackinac GE44 Timber, which is a subsidiary of the Nova, and a Micro Trains flat car with a underground mini truckload. That's all in N scale, folks. That is really good N scale.
Yes.
Look at that. There's a separate one there with the mini truckload. That's nice. Wow. Beauty. Adam Bunkelman, Workbench is the Woodland Scenics Theater, the Kettle Moraine Ballast Scorchers HO scale layout. That's the one thing that was changed was the movies. Gone are the Gone with the Wind and In with the Blazing Saddles. Next movie coming soon is Spaceballs. Add more lights to really light this thing up. So
now he's got Gene Wilder in there. You'd think he'd have the Silver Streak.
Oh,
well, yeah, could have.
That could be a possibility.
Yeah.
So that's a good call, Jim. I like that.
Wow. Wow. Pop culture making a way into the second section here tonight.
Yeah, there you go.
We started with Cher, and it's been a roller coaster ride from there. This is fantastic, Adam. Beautiful. This is really good.
Next thing you know, Athern will be making an AM rail FP9 with a big smile on its face.
Yeah.
No wheels, though.
No wheels.
Well, Paul Bukowski, I'm making this Old American Models boxcar new again. It was an eBay find that had 4 layers of paint, and it took 2 weeks in alcohol to get rid of the paint.
Wow.
Nicely done.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah, those are some of those cars are pretty rough shape sometimes, but he's doing a great job on that.
Oh,
yeah, let's see. We have Rick Cook here. Nothing new on the workbench, just continuing to work on the scale conversion and backdating of an American Flyer U33C to a Phase 2A. And I'm going to guess that we're getting rid of the American Flyer bits and turning this into a true S-scale model.
Yeah, it's his work is ridiculous so far on this.
Yeah, Rick is a good modeler.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Chris Hiley tonight. What's on my workbench? Testing different combination of paint colors and ballast samples in the Helena yard. Some ballast dirt has been hand sifted. The rest is from Arizona rock and mineral. Hashtag not sponsored. Well done tonight,
Nice.
Chris. Yeah, you'll have to let us know what you settle on.
Looks like a little pink lady maybe in there or something, even though it's supposed to be Montana Rail Link area. But I mean, it kind of looks like a little pink lady.
Yeah. I don't know which one's my favorite. I'm kind of partial to the one in the lower track there in the picture. I like the one on
that beige color or that tannish color.
Yes, I like that one, like with the really dark weathered ties. That really pops to me.
right.
Yep.
Pops out.
I like that. But that's just my opinion, Chris. You don't get bonus points if you pick that one. Timmy Elam Chapham, N-scale car park has finished. So we've seen this model a few times on what's on the workbench, and it's awesome to see that it's come to completion. Beautiful structure here and lit up at night. I really like this, Timmy. This is good.
Nicely
that looks so cool.
Great done. That's well done. I like that. That's a cool car. The car park structure is kind of a neat idea to do for a model.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Go back to that.
I'm back.
Is he setting up an actual operating road? Is that what that is right there?
Oh,
like Tim, let us know if that's what if that's the purpose behind that car part is, because that looks like it's one of those
line in the road.
Right.
Yeah. So he has actual animated vehicles going, on. That is so cool if it is.
So we got to have a good eye here. Let's take a look at the cars on the rooftop here.
You got a little
Great
DeLorean.
Scott.
Yeah, Great Scott. Another movie that Adam could put on the marquee of the theater.
But what is up in the upper left corner there? What car is that?
You
see the Batmobile is right.
The
Batmobile.
Is that the Harry Potter car?
Is that what that is?
Maybe. I can't quite tell.
Is that a car from Mr. Bean? Could it be the car that Mr. Bean had?
It kind of looks like a Mini Cooper.
Oh,
maybe.
Maybe. We'll have to get a ruling on that, Timmy. Let us know. All right. Sal Natali, chasing shorts and issues in my steam engine. This J class is getting a new TCS DCC kit sound upgrade, but one of the boards seems to be defective and shorting out on its own. And it's confirmed that it is correctly wired. Pensy 210 has a body short and seems that the decoder is now fried. Smoke has been let out. It must have let the smoke out. Going to the manufacturers to resolve these issues. Since none of my steam engines are running, I guess my layout is forced to fully dieselize, just like the prototypes.
We got a couple of guys here that have said, Ralph Renzetti and Randall Ellison said that car looks like it's from the Italian Job.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Nice
going
eye,
back
guys.
to Timmy.
Nice.
Going back to Timmy's car park post. And if there's anyone out there that can help Sal with his DCC issues, make sure you find the What's on Your Workbench feed here and maybe give him a hand or a little helping.
He said he had a tsunami that he put in that?
No, TCS.
Oh, TCS. Okay. Yeah, they usually have a pretty good support mechanism too, so maybe they'll have something for them.
Yeah,
those steam engines are kind of finicky sometimes.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, they are indeed. So here we have Corey Bukowski working on 4 GP40 high nose non-dynamic brake locos for the central Minnesota and western. All 4 are now in primer and getting a coat of CMW blue tomorrow.
Wow.
It's very cool. This is good use of, it looks like toilet paper tubes for shell holders, or maybe paper towel tubes for shell holders there. I like that. So he's got all of his shells and looks like sills propped up on toilet paper tubes that he's going to use as handles for painting. Nice.
That's a good idea.
It's a good idea. Very good. Have to let us know what that airbrush is down there. I haven't seen one like that with the orange back mechanism. But yeah, very good, Corey. All right. Greg Gay here. HO scale burnout this week, working on a 1/25th scale R model Mac from AMT. So yeah, we talked about burnout in one of our previous podcasts. But hey, jump on in and do something else to keep the modeling juices flowing. This is very good, Greg.
Neat.
Good looking model. All right. Ryan Folk, our contributor to the short line of the show, right, Mike?
Yep.
Hey, he says, on the workbench, general disarray. We'll salute General Disarray.
Salute.
Salute. There are crane leg parts for a feed mill I'm building up on a showcase miniature dump truck and a couple of feed truck fertilizer truck projects. And about 75 scrap pieces of styrene. I know that I should throw away, but I might need that 3-centimeter piece of H column later. He's absolutely right. Don't throw that away, Ryan. You're going to need it someday. I guarantee it. So
Ryan, awesome job on helping with the short line of the show, but you really need to start working on filling in a lot of those gaps on that layout on your workbench.
Yeah, there's a lot of cutting mat space that's open here. You can really get probably 6-7 more projects in there, but I get it.
Luke Lemons always told me that he's got a box that don't ever throw any of that stuff away, because he has a thing that's called bits of string too small to use. So there's a purpose for everything.
That's right. That's right. We got Tony Dixon here, regular contributor, and he says, on and fresh off the workbench projects, 16-ton, 24-ton commodity body, along with the power unit, fuel tank, hydraulic tanks off the printer and bench, and the woodhouse elevator with the brick annex feed store with small attached warehouse. There's a series of pictures here that, first of all, the truck is really, really cool looking. So hats off to you there, Tony. And then I'm gonna guess there's a handful of other pictures here from Tony. Underneath here, we'll have to go. Yep, here's the next one here, the trailer, commodity trailer. See if I can do it the easy way. Nope, it's going to make me go through each one. There's the details on the tongue.
Nice.
Looks like the trailer there. That's pretty cool. Interior of a building here. This is pretty sharp too. So good job, Tony. Here's a little different perspective of it. That's really cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are all Tony? Are all those 3D printed in the store there, or did you hand scrap some of those up? You have to let us know. Another building there. Yeah, this is Tony. Tony usually contributes about 10 to 12 different pictures each week for us.
Yeah.
So I like his workbench though. So he's got the 1, 2, 3 blocks in the background. There's not much space left over here aside from evergreen styrene and handful of other items. There's only about 3-4 square inches here. So this one's pretty good. All right. Let's see. More shots of the feed mill. Oh my God. End of video. So I have to make sure you guys go and check that out up on the What's on Your Workbench feed. Paul Scott, August is coming in. Scratch building the Mondovi canning factory. This is a pretty cool structure that he's doing.
Still way too organized.
His workbench is far too clean.
Yes, far too organized.
It's just it's beautiful, and then you can see the organization leads into beautiful modeling. So
it does, but it makes me awful suspicious.
It makes you suspicious. Here's another bit of the interior here for fall,
nicely
August.
done.
Yeah, this is it. This is really good stuff. Well done.
Has he got a Fairbanks Morris scale in the back along the back wall on there? Is that what that was?
Hold on a sec. Did we? That I can't tell.
Right there, that above to the right there. Yeah, right there. Is that a scale?
Paul, if you're still on tonight, you'll have to give us a heads up. What's going on back here? And then he's got an early Proto 2000 C&W shell, needs a DCC and the sound chassis, maybe a newer Walthers ? Maybe. Okay, let's see. Wow. Mike Slater, no Workbench this time, getting set up a layout at the Fall Harvest Show in Union Grove, Wisconsin at the Racine County Fairgrounds, running trains for 3 days. And Mike's got a wonderful traction layout that he's setting up.
That thing's really, really cool.
Yes.
I think he had it set up at St. Louis, Jim.
He did, yeah.
Yeah, did you get a chance to go down the hall and take a look at it?
Yeah, nicely done. Really nicely done.
So and Mike, if you're on, let us know what you're modeling, but is it the Northwest Shortline? Is that the prototype?
North Shore, I think he's doing.
The North Shore, yeah.
Northwest Shortline, that's a manufacturer. Oh, come on, Andy. It's just as bad as me gaffing S-scale on the show tonight. That was... let's see here. John Gordillo, he says, my Workbench tonight, despair and misery. Looks like he's in the cab of a locomotive.
That is what we call in the industry assuming the position.
Assuming the position. All right. Ken DeBecky, my road work doesn't fit on my Workbench. I have to use a big table, but here's my progress since the last time, using a variety of mock-ups for visuals. So this is pretty cool scene that he's got going on with his street running here. And look at this. Taco sauce has made an appearance on the left-hand side.
It looks kind of like a little bit like maybe Bellevue, Illinois. Is it Bellevue, Illinois? Am I right, Jim?
Sounds familiar, but
is Bellevue the one where the train runs right down where they have this clip? Yeah,
I think
we got to get the bus off the grade crossing. That's a safety issue.
Well, it's only a safety issue if the train hits it. So.
Yeah, maybe the train's backing up. Maybe it's doing a shove. Oh man, but yeah, Ken, we got to get that bus off the grade crossing there. Robert Thomas, ready for the show, working on adding the underframe details to an Athearn Roundhouse old-timey boxcar.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and look at that. He's going to get a few bonus points here and a few minuses. So minus for there's a lot of space here that we could be utilizing for projects. He's going to get some bonus points here for second section. He's got a coffee cup from the other podcast that we talk about frequently here, the Around the Layout. Yep. That's pretty nice. And then on the back shelf, I spy with my little eye some taco sauce.
Yep.
In the back. So
I see 3 bottles of it.
I see 3 bottles of it. So good work there, Robert. It's looking good. And of course, we always enjoy your modeling picks as well. So keep them coming. Kenneth Schmidt, too much on the Workbench to list. No taco sauce, though. Yeah, he's got a nice smattering of projects here. Looks like he's got some electrical things that he's going to be working on as well. Couple of boxes. But yeah, we'll have to work on getting the taco sauce there, Kenneth. All right, Dennis Carroll, turnouts.
Yeah. Never good when you get the fast tracks fixtures.
Yeah, when they come out, you know you're in for an evening.
Yep.
And then Linton Lewitt, no work today, no model railway Workbench, unfortunately. But it looks like he's got a few things going on here. So it's like some sort of monitor or screen there. We'll have to figure out what's going on there. So I think that's it, folks.
Wow. I think I sent you a couple from Ralph, didn't I? You want to throw those up?
let me see.
Can you throw those up?
I don't know. Let's try it. Yes, I can. So Ralph Franzetti.
He's doing 42 of these units.
Wow.
42 of these units. Unbelievable.
Yep.
This is so Ralph is, I mean, if you guys don't know, and I'm sure most of you do, Ralph is a fantastic modeler and is probably one of the best weathering folks that are out in the hobby today. He does, weathering like it's artwork on equipment. So, and he's taught me a lot of stuff on painting and color theory and those types of things to get my fades right. So Ralph, this is top notch. The Calgary Southern, isn't that his home road?
I think that is his own home road.
Oh wow!
This one blew me away.
Yeah,
and these are N scale, by the way.
Are they really?
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, you sent over 3, right, Mike?
Yeah, he just sent those 3, but he said he's doing 42 of these.
In N scale? All in N scale?
I believe, I'll double check, but I believe that is exactly, yep, N scale. Yep, Ralph just said it. Yep, N scale.
Unbelievable. That is some that is some serious modeling. That is some serious modeling. Those are really good, Ralph.
Yeah,
that is fantastic. So that was what's on the workbench for this evening. We're almost 3 hours into a show tonight. This is
so much for trying to keep the show under an hour every single time we do it.
This has been a Jim Dandy. This has been a Jim Dandy of a show. You could probably, if you watch me at the beginning of the podcast versus the end of the podcast, I just probably look tired and it's just like, this has been just a really awesome show. That is for sure. So I do have a couple of bits of I guess administrative stuff I want to leave with the section crew this evening. So if you haven't been out to the second section website, that's right, we do have a website now, the secondsection.com. Done a little bit of work to it. We've gone ahead and added in, let's see here, a little bit of the about section, some places where you can find us, subscribe links, all of our links to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon, all of those great places you can catch us, catch our audio podcasts out here. So if you just want to come out and browse a couple of those, we also have all of our YouTube episodes out here as well on the website. So you can go in, find your favorite episodes of the second section. Mike and I wrote a couple of bios about ourselves, so go ahead and check those out. And I did manage to get, I know Colin King has been trying to email us, but if you do have a comment or you want to talk to us, we do have an email section here. So go ahead, email us at the section chief at the second section podcast.com. It's a lot of sections in there. But yeah, section chief at the second section podcast.com, or just again, join our Facebook page. We're really taking off there. We're over almost 430 members of the group here and growing every day. We have a fantastic community that really like to
outstanding community.
Yes, we have a really good community of folks that are willing to share modeling tips, techniques, and also
listen to us
and then listen to us drone on about the fun stuff while we bore our guests. So yeah. So I just again, before we close up shop tonight, want to give the folks out there in the chat just any final comments or questions or things that you need to ask Jim, Mike, or myself. But Mike, I always like to turn the ending comments over to you. What do you think?
Well, I think this is a really good kickoff to the modeling season.
I think it is.
If you stop and think about it, fall's right around the corner. I mean, it Labor Day just happened, right. And that's usually the start of the modeling season, so to speak. I mean, there's a lot of fall and winter sports that are coming up and things like that.
Yeah.
And so I just want to start to encourage everybody to get out there, take a look at what you have around you, and just go for it. Just go. And if you think you can't do something, ask somebody that you know that has done something similar and work with people on it, and just go out there and do it. Have fun with it. There's no reason not to, so there's such a great community in this hobby, and such great content on the internet, that somebody out there has got an answer for, like I said, I'm looking for ways of trying to put color on
your shingles, right?
On my shingles, so it doesn't look like one uniform thing. So, and I know I'm going to get a bunch, and I've already gotten some very good suggestions. So, just get out there and have fun and enjoy the hobby, and welcome back to the modeling season.
Yeah, welcome back, Jim. I got to say, any comments or anything else you want to add before we close up tonight?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having me on. It was a good time. As I said before, I listened to you guys, and yeah, we are getting to that perfect season where you can, the days are getting shorter. You can work on the layout. You can work on the workbench, and listen to your favorite podcast while you're doing it. So, yeah, most definitely. And one other footnote for everyone. Unfortunately, and not to leave this on a sad note, but unfortunately, the Queen has passed. Yep. So yes. I want to say condolences to my brethren and those in the UK and the Commonwealth, and to the royal family. We're sorry for your loss. She was an incredible woman and a great leader, and so I do want to say that real quick. And then lastly, man, it's great to see so many active modelers out there doing some really great stuff. I mean, again, this is stuff that we didn't see 20 years ago. So, man, keep it up. I love looking at what is on everybody's workbench. That's one of the highlights of the show.
Yeah, it is for me. Well said, Jim. I just want to, again, thank you on behalf of Mike and myself for coming on. I will, for the section crew and those picking us up on the audio replay, I have all of Athern's YouTube and website information down in the show notes and description. So be sure to check them out. And again, join Jim for Train Tuesdays. Not only if you just want to learn about the releases, but also to learn some cool info about the prototype as well. And as we tie down here for tonight, I just again want to thank you, Jim, and sticking with us almost on a 3-hour
thank you very much.
It's been so much fun, and it was fantastic having you. And again, thank you to the section crew tonight in the chat. All some super good comments, great questions, and some really nice discussion, and then some fantastic modeling on what's on what's on your workbench. Sorry, Jim, I had to throw that one in there.
Leave it to Justin.
Yeah, well, I'm
nothing wrong with that.
I could go for some C&W Jeeps myself. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So I want to thank everyone again, and
thank you, Jim. And thank everybody.
You guys. Yes.
Thanks, section crew. Thank you very much.
Yes. Everyone have a good night. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you in a couple of weeks. Good night.
Night.